It's a wintry, gloomy day, but yet there is some sunlight now. It appears to be more or less symbolic of the general doom that we are all passing through. At the same time, it's important for us to not to slip into helplessness and despondency, and it's also important for us to keep the lamp glowing and not let it get extinguished by the storm outside. This is the first in a series of events that are being conducted at Ambedkar University as a part of its attempt to pay homage to Dr. Ambedkar on the occasion of the 125th birth anniversary. I'm so happy that the Indian Writers Forum also thought it appropriate to organize this event in collaboration with Ambedkar University. It's a great honor to us, and I will at some point request Rajan to tell you towards the end of the event perhaps the other programs that are also part of the string of events that are planned between today and the 14th of April. The 14th of April is going to be the 8th Ambedkar Memorial Lecture to be delivered by Professor Bama Thapa. So that should be the culmination of our this year's observance. But it also looks like, I think this is not something to be just celebrated as a part of a finite time frame event, but something we need to really incorporate into the way in which we are planning to live as a university. Because I think if universities lose their hope, I think the society has very little to look forward to. And that's precisely what we are witnessing all over. We are young. We are just 8 years old. But we are part of, we are the creation of a collective dream of a lot of us who have come together here and congregated and decided to give their life to the building of this institution. It's important for us to keep our morale high and not get affected by discouraging developments all around. I'm sure that this event today and the panel discussion that's going to happen today is going to be one major source of inspiration that will keep us going. Thank you very much.
Now I would like to invite Gita Hariharan, who is the managing trustee. But besides that, when she is not doing activism, not doing Indian Writers Forum, she also has written several novels and short stories. But all of this now is keeping her busy. Gita, she will give you the background about the Indian Writers Forum, of which Shyam Menon is also a trustee.
Thank you so much, all of you, for being here this afternoon. Friends, this is not going to be an usual, ordinary discussion. I think we are here today to ask some very sharp questions of ourselves, you and I. What is a university? What is an educational institution? Is it a place where the status quo is perpetuated, where old fault lines are strengthened and new fault lines are introduced? Or is it a place where we learn not just to read and write, but to question, to speculate, to imagine? If we cannot do that, I am not an academic, but I'm a reader and a writer, I can tell you there is no point calling a place a university. Why do I say this? Because today, any discussion, any idea that comes up in the course of the afternoon, we dedicate to the young of this country, specifically Rohit Vemula. I ask all of you to stand up for a minute. Thank you. In more ways than one, Rohit and his friends who are still fighting the fight are here with us, not just through the efforts of people like us, of efforts of groups like the Indian Cultural Forum, the Indian Writers Forum, or our Journal of Gita Hariharan, or universities like Ambedkar, but also with the kind of speakers we have today. And we are very, very proud that Huchangi Prasad, who was threatened by the Hindutwadi goons last year, and who was threatened with the breaking of his fingers. The last time this happened in India is when the British were here, and they threatened the thumbs of weavers. And they threatened to break his fingers, and he escaped them and said, "Nothing will frighten me. I grew up with one particular experience as a Dalit, and I will write about it." And we should be proud to know that this young man, whom Rohit and his friends encouraged on the phone and gave him courage to resist, has published a book of poetry. And this is what we hope for all the youth in this country. So, this is why, in fact, the Indian Writers Forum was formed. When some of us, the poet K.Satchidanandan, several artists, academics like your own Vice Chancellor, all of us spoke and said, what is happening? It's not just a question of mob censorship, it is the more frightening prospect of self-censorship. When writers, when artists start to say, well, we're never going to use the image of a cow in our art, clearly there's something very wrong. If you're writing and you're afraid of what people will do to you, and of course all the more so if you come from certain sections of society, clearly there is no question of culture being alive. So people who like to talk about Indian culture, capital I and capital C, clearly do not know that culture is a living thing, a dynamic thing. So the Indian Writers Forum was put together precisely for this purpose. There is no membership. All of us own this platform, individuals, groups. We don't want people who beat or kill people they disagree with, people who look in each other's refrigerators to see what they eat, or of course also people who think that the rishis did cutting-edge science. But the rest of us are part of this. We decided that cultural practitioners have two ways in which they work. One is through their own work. They're politically engaged elliptically through their work in a nuanced, layered way. But they also, at regular points of time, at certain junctures of history, come forward and make an intervention in public space. And I think you will all agree with me that this is a time when each one of us has to be part of that intervention. You will hear more about the a new issue of Gupta Guru. Gupta Guru specifically was put up as a journal of culture to be a place where writers, artists, academics can publish without fear of intimidation, without fear of isolation, and of course, let's not forget, without fear of the marketplace. So you will see more of Gupta Guru later in the evening. I welcome all of you and I look forward to hearing the speakers. Thank you.
For our panel discussion, I introduce to you our chair, K.Satchidanandan sir. He is one of the editors of Gupta Guru, one of the board of trustees, and of course, widely known Malayalam poet who also translates from Malayalam into English. Satchidanandan.
Thank you, Savandeep, and congratulations on the wonderful presentation. For this panel, we have chosen the theme Caste, Religion and Lived Experience. So this was chosen much before the tragic turns of the events happened. And by a strange and sad coincidence, we are here assembled in the aftermath of an event that has created a lot of turbulence in the country. So I'll begin with reference to that and have a few observations as my introductory remarks, after which we will move on to the other three speakers. We are holding this discussion in the wake of a deeply disturbing sequence of events at the Hyderabad Central University, spurred on by a right-wing anti-dalit students organization through baseless propaganda and abetted by the university's new vice-chancellor and two central ministers, that has led to the suspension of 5 dalit students and the tragic suicide of one of them, a brilliant leader of the Ambedkar Students Association, Bama, in utter desperation, and a nationwide protest meant to draw people's attention to the intensifying oppression of dalits in the country. This is not a first, but one in a series of similar incidents that have been happening at the HCU. You remember earlier incidents like the suicide of Chandra Kumar. This is reported to be the 8th suicide of a dalit student in this particular university, as well as other institutions of higher learning, not to speak of several similar incidents in schools, villages and towns. Such incidents will continue to happen as long as the oppressive caste system prevails in India and our definition of class, nation and secularism exclude this harsh reality. While writing the classic treatise, Annihilation of Caste, Baba Sahib Ambedkar knew very well that he was taking on an institution unique to India with a morbid history of centuries of discrimination, oppression, denial of every human right and violence of the worst kind, and that it is impossible to achieve even a semblance of democracy in the country as long as this inhuman system was permitted to thwart every attempt at creating a just and egalitarian society. He also knew that a caste system that stratified the Indian society in what seemed a windowless prison was a greater evil even compared with apartheid, as here it involved also untouchability, ritual pollution, and a whole complicated mechanism of spatial control and of self-perpetuating hierarchy based on superiority and inferiority on the one hand, and conventions and taboos around everything from the use of language to dress codes on the other, besides a whole set of supposedly sacred texts from Manusmriti to Bhagavad Gita that legitimized the hegemony of the so-called upper caste through myths, metaphysics and cosmologies, and saved them from the conflict and guilt that the practitioners of racism often feel, as it has no textual or religious sanction. All the made-up theories of caste, from Maurice Godelier and Gail Ometh to Uma Chakravarti and Subira Jaiswal, are agreed on the fact that unlike class, caste is a construct not merely of the methods of production in the material realm, but of the operations of reproduction in the ideational arena too. That is why, unlike class, caste defies and denies the logic of social transformation. Even by framing the Indian constitution with a lot of special provisions, including reservation for the marginalized and a criminalization of the practice of untouchability, Ambedkar must have known that his dream of a genuinely democratic and egalitarian India would meet with overt and covert resistance from those who enjoy the privileges of the system. His advocacy, 20 years after his undelivered talk on the annihilation of caste, of the conversion of the Dalits to Buddhism as a possible escape from the oppressive Hindu religion, must have followed from the sordid realization that they have no hope within the Hindu fold, despite Gandhi's unsuccessful attempts to transform the mindset of the upper caste. We are living at a time when Ambedkar's worst fears are proving true, with the increased degree of discrimination and violence against Dalits everywhere, including the educational institutions. We have before us reports of writers being intimidated into silence, school students being thrashed for unknowingly using the plates meant only for the so-called upper caste, Dalit students being asked to sit on separate benches, Dalit women and even little girls being raped and burned to death, and upper caste families boycotting educational institutions for admitting Dalit students, organizations for open discussion in institutions of higher learning being banned directly by the very government that is duty bound to protect the constitution, as at IIT Madras, or the government directly asking Dalit students to be suspended or dismissed for an unproven crime, as it happened at HCU, tea shops in villages serving tea for Dalits in coconut shells or serving food on leaves, peasants being attacked and killed by landlords or their appointed goons, young men and women being sentenced by Khap panchayats to lynching or hanging or forced into suicide for having found partners from another caste, houses and whole hamlets being burnt down, and genocides being committed across the land from Kilvelmani, Dharmaburi, Melevalavu, Marakanam in Tamil Nadu, or Sundur in Andhra Pradesh in the south, to Karamchedu, Belchi, Basanitola, Lakshmanpur Bathe in Bihar, or Kairanj and Chowkheda in Maharashtra, or Dangawas in Rajasthan in the north. All this, besides the ridicule and discrimination that it's faced every day from schools and colleges to offices and police stations. That the ascendancy of the muscular majoritarian ideology of Hindutva forces, who have always equated Hinduism with Brahmanism and its strictures, has only worsened the crisis, is evident from the increased instances of torture and discrimination and the new aggressiveness of the anti-reservationist and anti-minority voices in the last few months. What are the reasons for the increase in the pace and degree of the attack on the Dalits is evidently the new assertion of identity, dignity, and basic human and constitutional rights by the Dalits across the country through organizations, journals, social media, and literature, and the beginning, even if very slow, of the emergence of Dalit intellectuals, leaders, educationists, and holders of high office that the upper caste see as an open challenge to their unquestioned domination of all institutions which they think is their birthright. Though the Dalits had found their spokesmen from Jyoti Das and Ayyankali to Jyotiba Phule and Savitri Phule and finally Ambedkar in earlier times, it is the rise of the Dalit Panther movement and similar other regional and national uprisings for dignity and basic rights from the 60s onwards that has led to a new awakening and the new upper caste aggressiveness consequent upon it. That's also the time when the term Dalit, first used by Ambedkar, begins to replace the earlier terms like Asprishta or untouchable and patronizing Harijan in social and political discourse, a term that makes their position vis-a-vis the upper caste while also linking them to other victims of oppression. The anti-mental agitation was the most violent expression of this upper caste frustration, and the 1990s thus mark a new bloody turn in the shamelessly outrageous anti-Dalit politics in India. The emergence of a strong corpus of Dalit literature has to be seen in this context. Dalit literature is important not only because it reflects the state of the Dalits in the country, but it is also a positive assertion of Dalit values. The Dalit poets have created their own aesthetic that often goes against the injunctions of traditional Brahmanical poetics, using expressions that used to be dismissed as rustic or gramya, culturally corrupt or chuda samskara, or obscene or shlila, and questioning rules like dhvani or suggestion and auchitya or propriety. They have brought into poetry a whole new lexicon, rich with community dialects, slangs, street language, and rarely known sayings and usages. Dalit writers of fiction and autobiography have redrawn the map of Indian literature by discovering and exploring many so far unlit areas of experience. They have also overcome the stagnation that was looming large over many literatures through a cleansing renewal. In this attempt, they have revisioned myths and rewritten the epics from the perspectives of the marginalized characters, subverting the middle class notions of poetry and poetic language, and forced the rest of the society to look at its traditions and practices critically, reimagine their idea of the nation, and redefine the meaning of freedom and justice. Dalit women writers have forcefully articulated their double oppression as dalits and as women. Caste is now seen for what it is, institutionalized inequality. Bama is right when he says that the human meaning of caste for those who live it is power and vulnerability, privilege and oppression, honor and degradation, plenty and want, reward and deprivation, security and anxiety. The repressive, alienating effect of the caste system, the denials they experience of space, wealth, dignity, history and knowledge is coherently related to the ideological and religious notions associated with the Brahminical representations of society. While the Constitution has formally ended caste-based discrimination in public spaces, its enforcement remains a dead letter precisely because the enforcers themselves most often subscribe to the ideology of caste. Thus, caste remains the fiercest expression of structural violence in the Indian society, the biggest source of intolerance and discrimination, and the greatest impediment to the attainment of genuine democracy. The present dispensation squarely and shamelessly derives its power from Brahminical, patriarchal ideology, as is evident both from the statements of its representatives and the practices of its followers. This is the broader context of our discussion today. I was only trying to put in context the theme that is going to be taken up by the three panelists today, who will speak from the point of view of experience as well as from the point of view of their own theoretical engagement with the questions regarding caste, especially in the context of contemporary India, with its with the aggressive rise of the majoritarian Hindu ideology and the Brahminical perception of life and thought that underlies that ideology. I would like to begin with Huchangi Prasad, who has already been introduced as a poet who was whom they tried to stop from writing, perhaps inspired by the fact that they could stop from writing another great Tamil writer, Perumal Murugan. But here is a young man who resisted their attempts to stop him from writing and declared that whatever you do to me, I will not stop writing about the reality of life as a Dalit in this country and in this century. So Prasad will speak in his mother tongue Kannada, which will be then translated. Prasad.
ವೇದಿಕೆ ಮೇಲಿರುವಂತಹ ಎಲ್ಲ ಬರಹಗಾರರಿಗೆ ಮತ್ತು ನೆರೆದಿರುವಂತಹ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನನ್ನ ಅಭಿನಂದನೆಗಳು. ನನಗೆ ಒಂದಿನ ಗೀತಾ ಹರಿಹರನ್ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಅವರು ಫೋನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನೀನು ಡೆಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಒಂದಿನ ಬರಬೇಕು ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮಿಗೆ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಿದರು. ರಾಜನ್ ಸರ್ ಸಹ ಬರಲೇಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದರು. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನಾನು ಅವರ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರೀತಿಯ ಕರೆಯುವಲೆಗೆ ಒಪ್ಪಿಕೊಂಡು ಈ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮಿಗೆ ಬಂದೆ.
All writers on the dais and friends present here, greetings. One morning, Gita Hariharan and Rajan sir invited me for this program, and that is I felt I should be present here with all of you and share my experiences. That's why I'm here.
ಸ್ನೇಹಿತರೆ, ನನಗೆ ಅಟ್ಯಾಕ್ ಆದಂಥ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಗಳಿಂದಲೂ ಸಹ ಕಾಲ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನನಗೆ ಧೈರ್ಯವನ್ನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. ದಲಿತ್ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸು ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದಲಿತ ಪರ ರೈಟರ್ಸು ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಪ್ರಗತಿಪರ ರೈಟರ್ಸ್ಗಳು ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಸಹ ನನಗೆ ಸಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ನನಗೆ ಧೈರ್ಯವನ್ನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. ಅದೇ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಹೈದರಾಬಾದ್ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿಯ ಈಗೇನು ರೋಹಿತ್ ರವರು ಇದಾರಲ್ಲ, ಅವರು ನನಗೆ ಫೋನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನನ್ನೂ ಸಹ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿಯಿಂದನೇ ಉಚ್ಚಾಟನೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ನಾವು ಸಹ ನಿನ್ನಂತೆ ದೌರ್ಜನ್ಯಕ್ಕೆ ಒಳಗಾಗಿವಿ, ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ನೀವು ಆತ್ಮವಿಶ್ವಾಸವನ್ನು ಕಳ್ಕೋಬೇಡಿ, ಧೈರ್ಯವಾಗಿರ್ರಿ, ನಾವು ಎಲ್ಲ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಸಪೋರ್ಟಿಗೆ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ ಅಂತ ರೋಹಿತ್ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಸ್ ನನಗೆ ಫೋನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಹೇಳಿದರು. ಬಟ್ ಈ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ನನಗೆ ಆತ್ಮವಿಶ್ವಾಸವನ್ನು ಹೇಳಿದಂತಹ ರೋಹಿತ್ ರವರು ನಮ್ಮನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ದೂರ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರಿಗೆ ಅವನನ್ನು ಸಹ ನಾನು ಈ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ನೆನೆಯುತ್ತೇನೆ.
Friends, when I was attacked, a lot of Dalit writers, progressive writers and organizations from across the country expressed solidarity with me. And today I would like to remember that Rohit Vemula and his friends from Hyderabad Central University also called me and instilled confidence in me. But I am sad to note that today a person who in my days of need instilled confidence in me is no longer with us.
ಭಾರತದ ದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಜಾತಿ ಭೇದ ಇರುವುದರಿಂದಲೇ ಈ ಹಿಂದೂ ಧರ್ಮ ಸುರಕ್ಷಿತವಾಗಿದೆ. ಜಾತಿ ಭೇದ ಎಂಬುದು ಹಿಂದೂ ಧರ್ಮದ ಮೂಲ ಅಡಿಪಾಯ. ಯಾವತ್ತು ಈ ಜಾತಿ ನಾಶವಾಗುತ್ತದೋ ಅವತ್ತೇ ಹಿಂದೂ ಧರ್ಮ ನಾಶವಾಗುತ್ತದೆ ಅಂತ ಬಾಬಾ ಸಾಹೇಬ್ ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್ ಅವರು ಒಂದು ಮಾತನ್ನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ.
Caste is the foundation, basic foundation of the Hindu religion, and Baba Saheb Ambedkar has mentioned that once caste is annihilated, then it would lead to the destruction of Hindu religion.
RSSನ ಚೆಡ್ಡಿಗಳು ಭಾರತದಲ್ಲಿರುವ ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಬ್ಬರ ಮೇಲೂ ಹಿಂದುತ್ವದ ಹೆಸರಿನಲ್ಲಿ ವೈದಿಕ ಶಾಹಿಯನ್ನು ಏರಲು ನಾನಾ ತಂತ್ರ ಅನುಸರಿಸುತ್ತಾ ರಾಜಕೀಯದ ಅಧಿಕಾರದ ಮೇಲೆ ತನ್ನ ಹಿಡಿತವನ್ನ ಇತ್ತೀಚಿನ ದಿನಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಸಾಧಿಸುತ್ತಿದೆ. ಗೋಳ್ಕರ್, ಹಿಟ್ಲರ್ ಅವರನ್ನೇ ಆದರ್ಶವಾಗಿಟ್ಟುಕೊಂಡಿರುವ ಸಂಘ ಪರಿವಾರದವರು ಈ ದೇಶದ ಮೂಲ ನಿವಾಸಿಗಳಾದಂತಹ ದಲಿತರನ್ನು, ಹಿಂದುಳಿದವರನ್ನು, ಅಲ್ಪಸಂಖ್ಯಾತರನ್ನು ಮತ್ತು ಮಹಿಳೆಯರ ಸಮಾನತೆಯನ್ನು ಸಹ ಎಂದಿಗೂ ಸಹಿಸುವುದಿಲ್ಲ. ಸಮಾನತೆ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ಹೋರಾಡುವುದೇ RSSನ ಮೂಲ ಉದ್ದೇಶವಾಗಿದೆ.
The RSS Nikkardaris who seek to hold political control, they are followers of Hitler, and their guru Gopal Guru also was a follower of Hitler. They are against equality in the society. They cannot tolerate a situation wherein the dalits, women and other oppressed sections would rise up for their rights.
ಜಾತಿ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆಯು ಭಾರತದಲ್ಲಿ ಭದ್ರ ಬುನಾದಿಯಾಗಿ ನಿಂತಿದ್ದು ದಿನದಿನಕ್ಕೂ ತನ್ನ ಬೇರುಗಳನ್ನ ಬಲಗೊಳಿಸುತ್ತಿದೆ. ನಾನು ಜಾತಿಯ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಐತಿಹಾಸಿಕವಾಗಿ ಒಂದೆರಡು ಮಾತುಗಳನ್ನ ಹೇಳಿ ನಂತರ ನನ್ನ ಲೈಫಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಜಾತಿ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಪ್ರಭಾವ ಬೀರಿದೆ ಮತ್ತು ಜಾತಿಯ ಶೋಷಣೆಯನ್ನ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ನಾನು ಅನುಭವಿಸಿನಿ, ನನ್ನ ಸಮುದಾಯದವರು, ನನ್ನ ಎಲ್ಲ ಜನಾಂಗದವರು ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಅನುಭವಿಸ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ನಿಮಗೆ ಮುಂದೆ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ.
The caste system is its roots are getting deeper in Indian society. I will initially speak a bit about my views on caste in India, and then I would go into the experiences of my own personal experiences, how I had to face caste oppression in my life.
ಬಂಧುಗಳೇ, ಬಾಬಾ ಸಾಹೇಬ್ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಬಿ ಆರ್ ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್ ಅವರು ಒಂದು ಮಾತನ್ನ ಈ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ನನಗೆ ನೆನಪಾಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಅದೇನೆಂದ್ರೆ, ಅಸ್ಪೃಶ್ಯತೆಯ ಒಂದು ಬೇರು ಜಾತಿ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆಯಲ್ಲಿದೆ, ಜಾತಿಯ ಬೇರು ವರ್ಣ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆಯಲ್ಲಿದೆ, ವರ್ಣದ ಬೇರು ಹಿಂದುತ್ವದಲ್ಲಿದೆ, ಹಿಂದುತ್ವದ ಬೇರು ರಾಜಕೀಯ ಅಧಿಕಾರದಲ್ಲಿದೆ. ಈ ಮಾತಿನೊಂದಿಗೆ ನಾನು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಜಾತಿಯ ಇತಿಹಾಸವನ್ನ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮುಂದೆ ಪರಿಚಯಿಸ್ತೀನಿ.
Baba Saheb Ambedkar has mentioned that the roots of untouchability is in the caste system, the roots of the caste system is in the Varna system, and the roots of the Varna system are in the Hindu religion.
ಕ್ರಿಸ್ತಪೂರ್ವ 185ರಲ್ಲಿ ಮೌರ್ಯ ಸಾಮ್ರಾಜ್ಯದ ಕೊನೆಯ ದೊರೆ ಬೃಹದ್ರಥ ಮೌರ್ಯನನ್ನ ಆತನ ಮಂತ್ರಿಯಾದ ಪುಷ್ಯಮಿತ್ರ ಸುಂಗ ಎಂಬ ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಣನು ಮೋಸದಿಂದ ಕೊಂದು ಸುಮತಿ ಭಾರ್ಗವನಿಂದ ಮನುಸ್ಮೃತಿಯನ್ನ ರಚಿಸ್ತಾನೆ. ಆ ಮನುಸ್ಮೃತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಣ, ಕ್ಷತ್ರಿಯ, ವೈಶ್ಯ, ಶೂದ್ರ ಅಂತ 4 ವರ್ಣಗಳನ್ನ ಸ್ಥಾಪಿಸಿ ಆಸ್ತಿ, ವಿದ್ಯಾ, ಅಧಿಕಾರಗಳನ್ನ ಅವ್ರ 3 ಜನಕ್ಕೆ ವಹಿಸಿ ಇವರು ಶೂದ್ರರು ಸೇವೆಯನ್ನ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದು 100% ಎಲ್ಲ ಅಧಿಕಾರಗಳನ್ನ ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಣ, ಕ್ಷತ್ರಿಯ, ವೈಶ್ಯರಿಗೆ ಆ ಸುಮತಿ ಭಾರ್ಗವ ಮನುಸ್ಮೃತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾನೂನಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಜಾರಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ.
In 185, the Maurya the Mauryan ruler Brihadartha Maurya was killed by his Brahmin minister Pushyamitra, and through treachery, and from then on the implementation of the Manusmriti, which the Brahmins used to ensure their hegemony continues, has come into being.
ನಂತರ ನಮ್ಮ ದೇಶಕ್ಕೆ ಬ್ರಿಟಿಷರು ಬಂದಂಥ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ರೈಸ್ತ ಮಿಷನರಿ ಮೂಲಕ ನಮಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಸಹ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣವನ್ನ ಮೆಕಾಲೆ ಅವರು ಸಾರ್ವತ್ರಿಕರಣಗೊಳಿಸ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದರ ಮೂಲಕ ಕಲಿತಂತ ಮಹಾತ್ಮ ಜ್ಯೋತಿಬಾ ಫುಲೆ ಅವರು ನಮ್ಮ ಶೂದ್ರಾತಿ ಶೂದ್ರರಿಗೆ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣವನ್ನ ಕಲಿಸ್ತಾರೆ. ಹೀಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣವನ್ನ ಆರಂಭ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ.
Much later, after the British came into India and with Christian missionaries setting up educational institutions, one of those who benefited from such education, Mahatma Jyotiba Phule, he ensured that the Dalit community, people from the Dalit community would have access to education.
ಹಾಗಾದ್ರೆ ಜಾತಿ ಸರ್ವನಾಶವಾಯಿತೆ, ಜ್ಯೋತಿಬಾ ಫುಲೆ ಅವರ ಕನಸು ಈಡೇರುತ್ತೆ, ಬುದ್ಧನ ಕನಸು ಈಡೇರುತ್ತೆ, ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್ ಅವರ ಕನಸು ಈಡೇರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ನಿಜಕ್ಕೂ ಅದೊಂದು ರೀತಿ ಶೂನ್ಯವಾಗಿದೆ.
But has caste been annihilated? Has the dreams of Mahatma Jyotiba Phule, Gautam Buddha or Ambedkar been fulfilled? That is still an issue which continues to linger on. Caste continues to linger on.
ಕೆಲವು ತಿಂಗಳ ಹಿಂದೆ ಉತ್ತರ ಪ್ರದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ನಡೆದಂತಹ ಘಟನೆ ನಿಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಸಹ ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಇತ್ತೀಚಿನ ದಿನಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ದಲಿತರ ಮೇಲೆ ದೌರ್ಜನ್ಯಗಳು, ಅತ್ಯಾಚಾರಗಳು, ಹಲ್ಲೆಗಳು, ಕೊಲೆಗಳು ದಿನದಿನಕ್ಕೂ ಸಹ ಹೆಚ್ಚಾಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾವೆ. ಉತ್ತರ ಪ್ರದೇಶದಲ್ಲಾದಂತಹ ಒಂದು 2 ಘಟನೆಗಳು ಆಗಿರಬಹುದು. 2 ಶಿಶುಗಳನ್ನ ಜೀವಂತವಾಗಿ ಸುಟ್ಟಿದ್ದು, ನಂತರ ಇದು ನ್ಯಾಯ ಕೇಳಲು ಹೋದಂತಹ ಮಹಿಳೆಯರ ಮೇಲೆ ಈ ಪೊಲೀಸ್ ಇಲಾಖೆಯವರೇ ಆ ವಸ್ತ್ರವನ್ನ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ವಿಕಾರಗೊಳಿಸಿದ್ದು, ಅದೇ ರೀತಿಯಾಗಿ ಒಬ್ಬ ದೇವಸ್ಥಾನದೊಳಗೆ ಹೋದ ಅಂತಂದು ಅವನನ್ನ ಸುಟ್ಟು ಭಸ್ಮ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು.
In the last few months, we have been seeing in Uttar Pradesh and other parts of North India, there have been continuous attacks on Dalits, there have been killing, there have been rapes, there has been the incident of 2 innocent children being burned, Dalit women who went to the police station being disrobed, how someone who entered the temple being attacked and killed.
ಚೆನ್ನೈನಲ್ಲಿ ದಲಿತ ಯುವಕ ಒಬ್ಬ ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್ ರಿಂಗ್ ಟೌನ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕೇಳಿಕೊಂಡದ್ದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಹಾಕಿಕೊಂಡು ಓಡಾಡಿದ್ದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಅವನನ್ನ ಕೊಂದು ಹಾಕಿದ್ರು. ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ ಕೋಲಾರ ಜಿಲ್ಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಸರ್ಕಾರಿ ಶಾಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬಿಸಿ ಊಟ ಮಾಡುವಂತಹ ಒಬ್ಬ ಹೆಣ್ಮಗಳು ದಲಿತರಾಗಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಇಡೀ ಆ ಶಾಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಮಕ್ಕಳನ್ನ ಬಿಡಿಸಿ ಆ ಬೇರೆ ಶಾಲೆಗೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿನ ಸವರ್ಣೀಯರು, ಮೇಲ್ಜಾತಿ ವರ್ಗದವರು ಸೇರಿಸಿದ್ರು.
One Dalit was killed just because his mobile had a tune of a song praising Ambedkar. In Kolar in Karnataka, a Dalit woman who was the midday meal worker, since she was cooking the food, the entire all the children in that school stopped eating food from that school because it was a Dalit woman who was cooking food.
ಇನ್ನು ಕೈರ್ಲಾಂಜಿ, ಕರಂಚೇಡು ಅಂತ ಏನು ನಮ್ಮ ಸಚ್ಚಿದಾನಂದ ಸರ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು, ಅವೆಲ್ಲ ಇವಿಷ್ಟು ಘಟನೆಗಳು ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರ ಮಟ್ಟದಲ್ಲಿ ಮೀಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತ್ರ ಫೋಕಸ್ ಆಗಿ ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರ ಮಟ್ಟದಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಸಹ ಗೊತ್ತಿದಾವೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಂತೀನಿ. ಬಟ್ ಗೊತ್ತಿರದಲಾರದಂತಹ ನಮ್ಮೂರಿನಲ್ಲಿ ನಡೆದಂತ ವಿಚಾರಗಳನ್ನ, ಇವತ್ತಿಗೂ ನಡೆಯುತ್ತಿರುವಂತ ವಿಚಾರಗಳನ್ನ ನಿಮ್ ಮುಂದೆ ಹಂಚ್ಕೊಳಕ್ ನಾನು ಇಷ್ಟಪಡ್ತೀನಿ.
About the other incidents in Khairlanji and other places which Professor Shyam mentioned, through the national media and otherwise, all of you must be aware. I would like to bring to your notice about my own village, what we are facing that there, which is not known much to the outer world.
ನಾನೇಕೆ ಈ ಒಂದು ರೋಷಭರಿತವಾದಂತಹ, ಆಕ್ರೋಶಭರಿತವಾದಂತಹ ನನ್ನ ನೋವುಗಳನ್ನ ಈ ಒಡಲ ಕಿಚ್ಚು ಪುಸ್ತಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೊರಹಾಕಿದ್ದೇನೆ ಅಂತನಕ್ಕೆ ಈ ಪ್ರಮುಖ ಕಾರಣಗಳು ನನಗೆ ಹೇಳೋದು ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ.
I would like to explain to you why my anger I have tried to put across through my writings in this book called Odala Kichu, which means the fire within.
ಊರಿನ ಹೊರಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಬೀದಿ, ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಬೀದಿ ಇದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಊರಿಂದ ಹೊರಗೆ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನ ಇಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಭೂಮಿ, ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಸಹ ಭೂಮಿ ಇಲ್ಲ. 15ರಿಂದ 20 ಅಡಿ ಮಾತ್ರ ಮನೆ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ 2-3 ಕುಟುಂಬಗಳು ವಾಸವಾಗಿವೆ. ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಓದಿಲ್ಲ, ಅನ್ಎಜುಕೇಟೆಡ್ಸ್. ದೇವದಾಸಿ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್, ಮೇನ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದೇವದಾಸಿ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್, ಅನ್ಟಚಬಿಲಿಟಿ ನಮ್ಮೂರಲ್ಲಿ 3 ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಇದು ಇವತ್ತಿಗೂ ಸಹ ಬೇರನ್ನ ಬಿಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾವೆ.
We have been kept out of the villages. We are forced to stay outside the villages. None of us have land. All are landless. The houses are very small with around 10 to 20 square feet. And there is illiteracy which is rampant. Caste is playing its role. We are all treated as untouchables, and also there is the oppressive Devadasi system which is existing in our village.
ದೇವದಾಸಿ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮಹಿಳೆಯರು, ದಲಿತ ಮಹಿಳೆಯರು ದೇವರಿಗೆ ದಾಸಿಯರಾದರೆ ಅವಳನ್ನು ಯಾರು ಸಹ ಅವಳಿಗೆ ಮದುವೆ ಆಗುವಂತಿಲ್ಲ. ಆ ಊರಿನ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಒಂದು ಗಂಡಸರು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮೇಲ್ಜಾತಿಯ ಗಂಡಸರು ಅವಳ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಆ ಲೈಂಗಿಕತೆಯನ್ನ ಈಡೇರಿಸಬಹುದು. ಈ ಒಂದು ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಅನ್ನ ಧಾರ್ಮಿಕವಾಗಿ ಬೆಳೆದು ದಲಿತ ಹೆಣ್ಮಕ್ಳ ಮೇಲೆ ಈ ಮನುವಾದಿಗಳು ಮಾಡಿದಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ದೇವದಾಸಿ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್.
In the Devadasi system, the Dalit women were offered to the gods as slaves of the gods, and the higher caste men would seek sexual pleasures from these women. The higher caste and the Brahminical system has ensured such an oppressive system is put in place to keep us under their control.
ಸ್ನೇಹಿತರೆ, ನಮ್ಮೂರಲ್ಲಿ ಬಹಳ ಮಹಿಳೆಯರು ದೇವದಾಸಿಯರಾಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇವರು ಮನೆ ಮನೆಗೆ ಭಿಕ್ಷೆ ಬೇಡುವುದು, ಲೈಂಗಿಕ ವೃತ್ತಿ ಮಾಡುವುದು, ಲೈಂಗಿಕ ವೃತ್ತಿಯನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ತಿರುವಂತರು. ಇವರೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಸಹ ಅನೇಕ ಜನಗಳು HIV ಇಂದ ಬಳಲ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇತ್ತೀಚಿನ ದಿನಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ದೇವದಾಸಿ ಮಹಿಳೆಯರ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಶಿಕ್ಷಿತರಾಗಿ ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್ ಅವರನ್ನು ಓದುತ್ತಿರುವುದು ನನ್ನಂತನೊಬ್ಬನ ಉದಾಹರಣೆಯಾಗಿ ನೋಡಬಹುದಾಗಿದೆ.
In our village, there are many women who are forced into becoming Devadasis. They earn their living by begging through the day, and at night they work as sex workers. Many of them are suffering from, have been infected by HIV, and it is only in the recent days that some of us, including people like me, have been able to get some education and read writings of Ambedkar and others.
ನನ್ನ ಕೇರಿಯ ಗಂಡಸರ ಜೀತವನ್ನೇ ವೃತ್ತಿಯನ್ನಾಗಿಸಿಕೊಂಡವರು ವರ್ಷಕ್ಕೆ ಕೇವಲ 50,000ಕ್ಕೆ ಇಡೀ ವರ್ಷ ತಮ್ಮ ಬದುಕನ್ನೇ ದುಡಿಯುತ್ತಿರುವವರು. ನನ್ನ ಕೇರಿಯ ದಲಿತ ಮಹಿಳೆಯರು ಕೂಲಿ ಮಾಡಲು ಹೋಗುತ್ತಾರೆ. ಅವರಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ದಿನಕ್ಕೆ 70 ರು ಮಾತ್ರ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಅವರು ಬೆಳಿಗ್ಗೆ 6 ಗಂಟೆಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಸಂಜೆ 7 ಗಂಟೆಗೆ ದುಡಿಬೇಕು. ಆ ಹೆಣ್ಮಕ್ಳು ದುಡಿಯುವಂತಹ ಮೇಲ್ಜಾತಿಯ ತೋಟದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಅನೇಕರು ಅತ್ಯಾಚಾರಕ್ಕೆ ಒಳಗಾಗುತ್ತಾರೆ. ಬಟ್ ಒಳಗಾದಂತಹ ಹೆಣ್ಮಕ್ಳು ಯಾರನ್ನು ಸಹ ಏನು ಹೇಳೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ತಮ್ಮ ಮರ್ಯಾದೆ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ಮದುವೆ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ಗಂಡಸರು ಅಂತಂದು ತಮ್ಮ ನೋವುಗಳನ್ನ ಈಗೂ ಹಾಗೆ ಅದಿಮಿಟ್ಕೊಂತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಅಕ್ಕಂದಿರೇ ಉದಾಹರಣೆ.
The men of our community by labor bonded by contract, where they are paid around 5,000 to 10,000 for a whole year, and women work in the fields and other places doing menial jobs for almost 12 hours a day and they are paid only as low as 70 rupees. There are many incidents of sexual harassment and rapes, but often these are unreported and due to the fear that is prevalent across the village.
ನನ್ನ ಸ್ವಂತ ಅಕ್ಕನ ಮೇಲಾದಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಘಟನೆಯನ್ನ ನಾನು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮುಂದೆ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ.
I will like to narrate an incident which took place with my own elder sister.
ನಾನು ಆಗ 8ನೇ ತರಗತಿ ಓದ್ತಿದ್ದೆ. ನನ್ನ ಅಕ್ಕ ನಾನು ಮೇಲ್ಜಾತಿಯ ತೋಟದ ಕೆಲಸಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗಿದ್ದೆವು. ನನ್ನ ಅಕ್ಕ ಗುಲಾಬಿ ಹೂಗಳನ್ನ ತೋಟದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೀಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ಲು. ನಾನು ಸಹ ಕೀಳ್ತಿದ್ದೆ. ಆ ಹೂವಿನ ಸಾಹುಕಾರ ನನ್ನ ಬೇರೆ ಹೊಲಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಬುಟ್ಟಿ ತರಲು ಕಳಿಸ್ತಾನೆ. ನಾನು ಬುಟ್ಟಿ ತರಲಕ್ಕೂ ನಾನು ಹೋಗಿ ಬರುವಷ್ಟರಲ್ಲಿ ನನ್ನ ಅಕ್ಕಳ ಸೀರೆಯನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಬಿಚ್ಚಿ ಅತ್ಯಾಚಾರ ಮಾಡುತ್ತಿದ್ದ. ಇದನ್ನು ಪ್ರಶ್ನಿಸಿದ್ದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ನನಗೆ ಹೊಡೆದು ಹಣ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ನಿನ್ನ ಅಕ್ಕಳೇ ನನ್ನ ಪಕ್ಕ ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾಳೆ ಅಂತಂದು ಆಕೆಯ ಮೇಲೆ ತಪ್ಪನ್ನು ಹಾಕಿದ್ದ.
My sister and me, we used to work in a rose garden of a higher caste landlord when I was in the 8th standard, and on some pretext I was sent away from the field, and when I returned back I found the high caste landlord was trying to rape my sister, and when we questioned, he tried to malign by saying that she had sought favors by taking some money from him.
2016ನೇ ಸಾಲಿನ ಜನವರಿಯ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಸುಮಾರು ದಿನಗಳಿಂದ ಬಹಳ ಘಟನೆಗಳು ನಡೆದವೆ. ಅವನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಂತ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಸಮಯ ಸಾಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ 2016ನೇ ಸಾಲಿನ ಜನವರಿ ತಿಂಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಈ 20 ದಿನಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಡೆದಂತಹ ಘಟನೆಗಳನ್ನು, ನಮ್ಮ ಬೀದಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಡೆದಂತಹ ಘಟನೆಗಳನ್ನು ನಾನು ನಿಮಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ. ಮಂಜುನಾಥ ಎಂಬ ಹುಡುಗ ಮೇಲ್ಜಾತಿ ಹುಡುಗಿಯೊಬ್ಬಳನ್ನು ಕೇವಲ ಮಾತನಾಡಿಸಿದ್ದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಆತನ ಮನೆಗೆ ಬಂದ 10-15 ಜನರು ಹಿಗ್ಗಾಮುಗ್ಗ ಥಳಿಸಿ ರಕ್ತ ಬರುವಂತೆ ಅವನನ್ನ ಹೊಡೆದರು.
There are many such incidents throughout my life, but I would like to mention to you some incidents that have taken place just in the last 20 days of this year. And a youth named Manjunath, who spoke to a girl from a higher caste, was beaten up and left for dead just because of the crime that he spoke to a girl from a higher caste.
9ನೇ ತರಗತಿ ಓದುತ್ತಿದ್ದ ಸಂತೋಷ ಎನ್ನುವ ನನ್ನ ಚಿಕ್ಕಪ್ಪನ ಮಗನೊಬ್ಬ ಸವರ್ಣೀಯರು ಹುಡುಗರು, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆ ಶಾಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಓದ್ತಿದ್ದಂತ ಸವರ್ಣೀಯರು ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್ ಅವರಿಗೆ ತುಚ್ಛವಾಗಿ ಬೈದ್ರು ಅಂತಂದು ಇವನು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ, ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್ಗೆ ಯಾಕೆ ಬೈತೀಯಾ, ಬೈಬೇಡ್ಗಣ ಅಂತಂದು ಅವನು ಒಂದು ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಮಾತಿಂದನೇ ಕೇಳಿದ್ದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಬೈಬಿಡೆ ಅನ್ನೋದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಕಿವಿ ಮತ್ತು ಬಾಯಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಸೋರುವಂತೆ ರಕ್ತ ಸೋರುವಂತೆ ಅವನಿಗೂ ಸಹ ಹಿಗ್ಗಾಮುಗ್ಗ ಹೊಡೆದ್ರು. ನಂತರ ದೇವದಾಸಿಯ
my cousin Santosh, who questioned some of the higher caste students in his school who were abusing Ambedkar, he was beaten up and came home with blood dripping from his ears and mouth.
ನಮ್ಮ ದೊಡ್ಡಮ್ಮನ ಮಗಳು ಒಬ್ಬಳಿದ್ದಾಳೆ, ಅವಳು ದೇವದಾಸಿ ಮಗಳು. ಆಕೆಗೆ ಸುಮಾರು 16 ವರ್ಷ ವಯಸ್ಸಾಗಿದೆ. ಆಕೆಯನ್ನು ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಸಹ ದೇವದಾಸಿ ಮಗಳು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸುಳೆ ಮಗಳು ಅಂತ ಇದ್ರು. ಆಗ ಆಕೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಿಂದ ಆಕೆಗೆ ನೀನು ಆ ಥರ ದೇವದಾಸಿ ಮಗಳು ಅನ್ಬೇಡ, ನನ್ನ ಹೆಸರು ರೇಣುಕಮ್ಮ ಅಂತ ಕರೀರಿ ಅಂತ ಅಂದಿದ್ದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಅವಳನ್ನ ರಾತ್ರಿ ಸುಮಾರು 3-4 ಜನ ಅತ್ಯಾಚಾರವನ್ನ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. ಇಂದಿಗೂ ಸಹ ನನ್ನ ಕೇರಿಯ ಜನರ ನೋವಿನ ಯಾತನೆ ಏನು ತಪ್ಪಿಲ್ಲ. ಇವೆಲ್ಲ ನಿಮಗೆ ಅಚ್ಚರಿ ಆದ್ರೆ ನಮಗಿದು ಮಾಮೂಲಿ ಆಗಿದೆ.
My aunt's daughter, my aunt is a Devdasi, and my aunt's daughter Renukama, she's had some education, and there were the villagers, some of the from the high caste, who were calling her a Devdasi's daughter or a daughter of a prostitute, and when she objected to it, later one night she was abducted and gang raped by 3 to 4 people from this community. You may all feel that so many such incidents happening. What I am saying, there are much worse situations that has happened, and though it might be quite shocking and surprising for all of you, for us it has been something very ordinary. It has been our daily life.
ಇನ್ನು ನನ್ನ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ, ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ಹೇಳಿದಂತೆ ನಮ್ಮೂರಲ್ಲಿ ದೇವದಾಸಿ ಪದ್ಧತಿ ಜಾರಿಯಲ್ಲಿರುವುದರಿಂದ ನಾನೊಬ್ಬ ದೇವದಾಸಿಯ ಮಗ. ನನ್ನ ತಾಯಿ ಹೆಸರು ಯಶೋದಮ್ಮ, ತಂದೆ ಹೆಸರು ಚಿತ್ರಪ್ಪ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಅನೇಕ ಜನರು ತಂದೆಯರಾಗಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಬ್ಬರನ್ನ ಇದು ನಮ್ಮ DC ಮಾಸ್ ಕಾರ್ಡಲ್ಲಿ ಅಡ್ಮಿಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಒಬ್ಬರನ್ನ ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ಹೆಸರು ಇಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ನಾನು 10ನೇ ವಯಸ್ಸಿನಲ್ಲಿಯೇ ಮೇಲ್ಜಾತಿ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕೇವಲ ವರ್ಷಕ್ಕೆ 700 ರೂಗಳಂತೆ ನಾನು ಜೀತವಿದ್ದೆ. ನನ್ನನ್ನು ಜೀತ ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ರು ನಮ್ಮಮ್ಮ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಮನಿ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಆಗಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ನಾನು ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆ 5 ಗಂಟೆಗೆ ಎದ್ದು ದನ ಕರುಗಳ ಸಗಣಿಯನ್ನು ಬಾಚಿ ತಿಪ್ಪೆಗೆ ಹಾಕಿ ಹೊಲಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಹುಲ್ಲು ತಂದು ನಂತರ ಹೊರಗೆ ಕುಳಿತು ಒಂದು ಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ತಟ್ಟೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಊಟ ಮಾಡಿ ತೆಂಗಿನ ಚಿಪ್ಪಿನಲ್ಲಿ ನೀರು ಕುಡಿದು ದನ ಮೇಯಿಸಲು ತೋಟಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೆ. ಇವೇ ಮುಂತಾದಂತಹ ಕೆಲಸಗಳೊಂದಿಗೆ ನನ್ನ ಜೀತದ ಬದುಕು ಆರಂಭ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು. ಆ ಇಡೀ ದಿನ ನಾನು ಆ ಜೀತವನ್ನ ಈ ತರ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೆ.
I am the son of a Devdasi. My mother's name is Yashodamma, and though we don't know who the father is, a person Chitrappa's name has been given as my father, since there has to be some name in the school certificate. And from the age of around 9 years, I have been working as a laborer bonded by contract, getting only around 700 rupees in a year. And at in a high caste landlord's home. I would have to wake up at 5 in the morning, go to graze cows, do a lot of other works. But we would be not allowed to enter into the houses of these high caste landlords. We would have to eat our food in plastic plates, and water or tea would be given in coconut shells.
ನಾನು ಜೀತವಿದ್ದಂಥ ದಿನಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಘಟನೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ. ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಘಟನೆಗಳು ನಡೆದವೆ, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಘಟನೆಯನ್ನು ನಿಮಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ. ಆ ಘಟನೆಯನ್ನು ಇವತ್ತಿಗೂ ಸಹ ಕಾಡ್ತತೆ. ಅದೇನೆಂದ್ರೆ, ಒಂದು ದಿನ ನಾನು ಜೀತವಿದ್ದ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿನ ಸಾಹುಕಾರನ ಮಗಳ ಒಂದು ಕಾಲಿನ ಚೈನು ಆ ಟಾಯ್ಲೆಟ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಬಿದ್ದೋಗ್ತತೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಬಿದ್ದೋಗಿತ್ತು ಅಂತ ಆ ಮನೆಯ ಯಜಮಾನಿ ನನ್ನನ್ನು ಟಾಯ್ಲೆಟ್ ಒಳಗೆ ಕೈ ಇಟ್ಟು ತೆಗೆಯೋ ಅಂತಂದು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು. ನಾನು ತಲೆಯನ್ನ ಇಟ್ಟು ಕೈ ಇಟ್ಟು ಅದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೆ, ತೆಗಿತಾ ಇದ್ದೆ. ಬಟ್ ಚೈನ್ ನನಗೆ ಸಿಗ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಆಗ ಬೇಕಂತಾನೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿದ್ರು ಸಹ ನೀನು ತೆಗ್ದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದು ಅದ್ರಾಗೆ ಹಿಗ್ಗ ಮುಗ್ಗ ಹೊಡೆದು ನನಗೆ ಆ ಟಾಯ್ಲೆಟಿಗೆ ನನ್ನನ್ನ ಈ ಚೆಂಡನ್ನ ದೆಬ್ಬಿ ಆ ಟಾಯ್ಲೆಟ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ರಕ್ತ ಬರುವಂತೆ ಹೊಡೆದಿದ್ರು. ಅದು ನನಗೆ ಇವತ್ತಿಗೂ ಸಹ ತುಂಬಾ ಮನಸ್ಸಿಗೆ ನೋವಾಗುತ್ತೆ.
During those days, working in this household, the landlord's daughter's anklet fell into the toilet. I was forced to look for it. I had to search the whole toilet, and when I couldn't find it, my head was dipped into it. I was beaten up for not having found that, telling I have not done my job properly.
ನನಗೆ ಯಾಕೆ, ನನ್ನ ಜನಾಂಗದರಿಗೆ ಯಾಕೆ ಈ ತರ ಶಿಕ್ಷೆಗಳು, ಈ ತರ ಇದು ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಇನ್ನೂ ನನಗೆ ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಇದು ಯಾಕೆ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಆಗ್ತೈತಿ ಅಂತ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಯೊಂದಿಗೆ ನಾನು ತುಂಬಾ ಚಿಂತಾಕ್ರಾಂತನಾಗಿ ಚಿಂತೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೆ. ಅದನ್ನು ನಾನು ನೆನೆಸ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಇವತ್ತಿಗೂ ಸಹ ಒಂಥರ ಮನಸ್ಸಿಗೆ ನೋವಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅವತ್ತಿನ ಒಂದು ಚಿಂತನೆಯೇ ನನ್ನನ್ನ ಒಂದು ದಿನ ಪರಿವರ್ತನೆಯಾಗಿ ಪರಿತಪಿಸಿತು.
Why such troubles for me and my people? I always used to think. I never had much education, but probably this thinking, the process that I was engaged with during those days, that led to the change in me later on.
ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಒಂದು ಯೋಜನೆಯನ್ನ ಜಾರಿ ಮಾಡುತ್ತದೆ, ಅದು ಬಾಲಕಾರ್ಮಿಕ ಯೋಜನೆ ಅಂತ. ಆಗ ಬಾಲಕಾರ್ಮಿಕ ಯೋಜನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ 6 ವರ್ಷದ 14 ವರ್ಷದ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಒಂದ್ ವೇಳೆ ಶಾಲೆಗೆ ಸೇರದೇ ಇದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರ ತಂದೆ ತಾಯಿಗಳು ಜೈಲ್ ಪಾಲಾಗ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಕಾನೂನನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿತು. ಆ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಮೇಷ್ಟ್ರುಗಳು ನನ್ನನ್ನ ಉಳ್ಕೊಂಡು ದನ ಕಾಯ್ದ ತೋಟದಲ್ಲಿ ದನ ಕಾಯನ್ನ ಎತ್ತಕೊಂಡು ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ವ್ಯಾನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕೊಂಡು ಒಂದು ಬೇರೆ ತಾಲೂಕಿಗೆ, ಚನ್ನಗಿರಿ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ತಾಲೂಕಿದೆ, ಆ ತಾಲೂಕಿಗೆ ತಕೊಂಡು ಓದ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಕಡ್ಡಾಯ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. ಓದ್ಲಿದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಅಪ್ಪ ಅಮ್ಮ ಜೈಲಿಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾರೆ ನೋಡು ಅಂತ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನ ಬೆದರಿಸಿ ಓದಕ್ ಹಾಕಿದ್ರು.
The Karnataka government around that time came up with a child labor scheme where all children who are working should be enrolled into schools. The parents who would send children for this work could have been jailed. Some teachers came to me when I was grazing cattle and forcibly took me to another taluk, Chennagiri, where I later continued my studies.
ಹೀಗೆ ಆ ಚನ್ನಗಿರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ನನಗೆ ಈ ನೋವುಗಳಾಗಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ನಾನು ಯಾಕೆ ಓದ್ಬೇಕು, ನಾನು ಯಾಕೆ ಓದಬಾರ್ದು, ಈ ನೋವುಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ನಾನು ನನ್ನ ಪೀಳಿಗೆಗೆ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕಲ್ಲ, ಇದು ನಾನು ಓದಿದ್ರೆ ನನಗೆ ಏನಾದರೂ ಮುಂದೆ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಒಂದು ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿ ಇರ್ಬೋದಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಚಿಂತೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಛಲದಿಂದ ನಾನು ಓದಕ್ಕೆ ಶುರು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡೆ. ಅಷ್ಟರಲ್ಲಿಯೇ ಮಂಜುನಾಥ, OS ನಾಗರಾಜ್ ಅಂತ ಇಬ್ರು ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಸಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಅಂತಾರು ನನಗೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿ, ನೀನು ಎಲ್ಲಿ ತನಕ ಓದ್ತೀವಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತನಕ ನಾವು ಸಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಅವತ್ತಿನಿಂದ ಇವತ್ತಿನ ತನಕ, ಈಗ ನಾನು MA ಜರ್ನಲಿಸಂ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ, ಇವತ್ತಿನ ತನಕ ಸಹ ಅವರೇ ನನ್ನ ಓದಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ.
When I got this opportunity, I felt that I should hold on to it, and this could probably bring about a change in our lives. And as I was studying there, two people, Manjunath and OS Nagaraj, they helped me a lot, and they helped to financially bear the expenses for my education. And now I am doing my MA in journalism. All through, they have stood as a major source of support.
ಸ್ನೇಹಿತರೆ, ನನ್ನ ಊರಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಮಲ ಓರುವ ಪದ್ಧತಿ ಇದೆ, ಇವತ್ತಿಗೂ ಸಹ ಚಾಲ್ತಿಯಲ್ಲಿದೆ. ನನ್ನ ಸಂಬಂಧಿಗಳಾದಂಥ ನಮ್ಮ ಚಿಕ್ಕಪ್ಪ ದೊಡ್ಡಪ್ಪರು ನಮ್ಮೂರಿನ ದಲಿತರೆಯ ಮೇಲ್ಜಾತಿ ವರ್ಗದವರ ಒಂದು ಟಾಯ್ಲೆಟ್ ಅನ್ನು ಸ್ವಚ್ಛ ಮಾಡೋದು, ಮಲ ಓರ್ದು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವರು ಲೆಟ್ರಿನ್ ಮಾಡಿದಂತಹ ಲೆಟ್ರಿನೆಲ್ಲ ಕೈಯಲ್ಲೇ ತಕೊಂಡು ಬುಟ್ಟಿಯಲ್ಲೇ ಹಾಕೊಂಡು ಅದನ್ನ ಬೇರೆ ಕಡೆ ಸಾಗಿಸುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಇದು ಇವತ್ತಿಗೂ ಸಹ ಜೀವಂತವಾಗಿದೆ. ಎಷ್ಟೇ ಸರ್ಕಾರಿ ಯೋಜನೆ ಸರ್ಕಾರಿ ಕಾನೂನುಗಳು ಬಂದರೂ ಸಹ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಕಡಿವಾಣವನ್ನ ಹಾಕಿಲ್ಲ. ಇದು ಸ್ವಚ್ಛ ಭಾರತ್ ಅಂತ ನರೇಂದ್ರ ಮೋದಿ ಅವರು ಬಹಳ ಇದರಿಂದ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಯಾವಲ್ಲ ಅದರ ಅಕ್ಟೋಬರ್ 2ರಲ್ಲಿ ಕೈಗೆಲ್ಲ ಬ್ಲೌಸ್ ಹಾಕಿ ಸ್ವಚ್ಛ ಭಾರತ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಂತ ನರೇಂದ್ರ ಮೋದಿ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು. ಬಟ್ ನಮ್ಮೂರಲ್ಲಿ ದಲಿತರು ಮಲ ಓರ್ತಾರೆ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಪೌರ ಕಾರ್ಮಿಕರು ಕಸ ಗುಡಿಸ್ತಾರೆ, ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಬ್ಲೌಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಖಾಲಿ ಚಪ್ಪಲಿ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಇವತ್ತಿಗೂ ಸಹ ಒಂದು ಹೀನಾಯ ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ ದಲಿತರು ಬದುಕ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ.
Manual scavenging continues to this day in my village. Lot of my members of the extended family are engaged in this. They are forced to carry the human excreta or clean it with their hands and carry it on their heads. And now Narendra Modi is talking about Swachh Bharat, and he speaks about giving the workers gloves and other required equipments, but this system is still continuing despite so many laws and other restrictions. Still the system continues as it is without any check.
ನಾನೇಕೆ ಈ ಹಿಂದುತ್ವವನ್ನ ವಿರೋಧಿಸುವೆ, ಇದರ ವಿರುದ್ಧವಾಗಿ ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯವನ್ನ ರಚನೆ ಮಾಡುವೆ ಮತ್ತು ಹಿಂದೂ ಧರ್ಮವನ್ನ ಪ್ರಶ್ನಿಸುವೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಹಿಂದೂ ಧರ್ಮವನ್ನ ಪ್ರಶ್ನಿಸುವ ಅಧಿಕಾರ ಈ ಒಂದು ಘಟನೆಗಳಿಂದ ನನಗೆ ಅಧಿಕಾರ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿದೆ. ಸ್ನೇಹಿತರೆ, ಜಾತೀಯತೆ, ದೇವದಾಸಿ ಪದ್ಧತಿ, ಅನ್ಟಚಬಿಲಿಟಿ, ದೇವದಾಸಿ ಇವುಗಳು ನನ್ನನ್ನ ಈ ಒಂದು ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯದ ಕಡೆಗೆ ಅನುಭವಗಳನ್ನೇ ನಾನು ಈ ಪುಸ್ತಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೆದಿದ್ದೆ.
Why I am questioning Hinduism, why I speak against Hinduism, why I write against it, what is the I have the right to write against it because it is this oppression which I have faced, which gives me the right to speak out against it.
ದೇವದಾಸಿ ಪದ್ಧತಿ ಇದೊಂದು ಮೇಲ್ಜಾತಿಯ ಗಂಡಸರು ತಮ್ಮ ಕಾಮದ ತೀಟೆಗೆ ದಲಿತ ಮಹಿಳೆಯರಿಗೆ ಧಾರ್ಮಿಕತೆಯ ಒಂದು ಮೂಗುದಾರವನ್ನ ಹಾಕಿರುವುದು ಹಿಂದುತ್ವದ ಒಂದು ಪದ್ಧತಿಯಾಗಿದೆ. 12-15 ವರ್ಷ ಇರುವಾಗಲೇ ದಲಿತ ಹುಡುಗಿಯರಿಗೆ ದೇವದಾಸಿಯನ್ನು ಮಾಡುತ್ತಾರೆ.
To satiate their sexual desires, the higher caste men have forced our women, even small children, girls of age 12 to 15 years, into becoming devadasis.
ನನ್ನ ದೊಡ್ಡಮ್ಮ, ನಮ್ಮ ಚಿಕ್ಕಮ್ಮ, ನನ್ನ ಅಕ್ಕ, ನಮ್ಮ ತಂಗಿ ಮತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ಅಮ್ಮ ಇದೇ ತರ ನಮ್ಮ ಇಡೀ ಕೇರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಸಹ ದೇವದಾಸಿಯರಾಗಿ ಬೆಳಿಗ್ಗೆ ಎದ್ದು ಆ ಮೇಲ್ಜಾತಿ ವರ್ಗದವರಲ್ಲಿ ಭಿಕ್ಷಕ್ಕೆ ಅಂತ ಹೋಗ್ತಾರೆ. ಆಗ ಕೆಲವರು ಬೈತಾರೆ, ಗಂಡಸರು ಹೋಗೆ ಅಂತ ಬೈದಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಸಂಜೆಯ ತಕ್ಷಣನೇ ತಮ್ಮ ಕಾಮದ ತೀಟೆಯನ್ನ ತೀರಿಸಿಕೊಳ್ಳೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಬಾಗಿಲು ತಟ್ಟಿ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ. ಅಪರಿ ಇವತ್ತಿಗೂ ಸಹ ಜೀವಂತವಾಗಿದೆ.
All women I know, from my mother to sisters, my aunts, all of them have been engaged in this as devadasis. In the morning they go to the higher caste homes for begging. They are abused on caste lines. But these very people at nights, to satisfy their sexual desires, they come and knock on our doors.
ಇತ್ತೀಚಿನ ದಿನಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ದೇವದಾಸಿ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಒಂದು ರೀತಿ ಹೈಟೆಕ್ ಸ್ಪರ್ಶವನ್ನ ಪಡೆದುಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದು ಆ ಬಾಂಬೆ, ಹೈದರಾಬಾದ್, ಡೆಲ್ಲಿ, ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ಇಂತಹ ಕಡೆ ನನ್ನ ಸಂಬಂಧಿಗಳು, ಅಕ್ಕ ತಂಗಿಯರು ಬಂದು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸೆಕ್ಸ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಅನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿ ನಂತರ ವರ್ಷಕ್ಕೆ ಒಮ್ಮೆ ಯುಗಾದಿ ಹಬ್ಬಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದು ಹಬ್ಬ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಮತ್ತೆ ರಿಟರ್ನ್ ಬದುಕುವಂತಹ ಈ ಬದುಕನ್ನು ಕಟ್ಟಿಕೊಂಡಂತಹ ಹಿಂದೂ ಧರ್ಮವನ್ನು ನಾನು ಪ್ರಶ್ನಿಸಬಾರ್ದ?
They have now forced those of our young women who are forced into the devadasi system to there is a cartel working which takes them to Hyderabad, to Mumbai and other areas, and they only come back home on Yugadi, which is the new year in Karnataka, and then they again have to go back. Shouldn't I question such a system?
ನನ್ನವರನ್ನು, ನನ್ನ ಅವ್ವ, ನನ್ನ ಅಕ್ಕ, ನನ್ನ ತಂಗಿ, ನನ್ನ ದೊಡ್ಡಮ್ಮ, ಇಡೀ ನನ್ನ ಸಂಬಂಧಿಗಳನ್ನ ದೇವದಾಸಿಯರನ್ನ, ಸೂಳೆಯರನ್ನಾಗಿ ಮಾಡಿ ನಿರ್ದಿಷ್ಟ ನಮಗೆ ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಸಹ ನನ್ನಂತ ತಮ್ಮಂದಿರಿಗೆ ನಿರ್ದಿಷ್ಟ ತಂದೆಯನ್ನು ಮಾಡದಂತಹ ಈ ಹಿಂದೂ ಧರ್ಮಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನು ಪ್ರಶ್ನಿಸಬಾರ್ದ? ಹಿಂದೂ ಧರ್ಮವನ್ನ ಪ್ರಶ್ನಿಸಬಾರ್ದ?
My mother, sister, relatives have all been forced into serving as sex workers, and people, there are so many of us like me who don't even know who our fathers are. Shouldn't we question this Hindu religion?
ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಸ್, ಈ ಕ್ಯಾಸ್ಟ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್, ಅನ್ಟಚಬಿಲಿಟಿ, ದೇವದಾಸಿ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ಗಳಂತಹ ಹಿಂದೂ ಧರ್ಮದ ಅನೇಕ ಮುಖವಾಡಗಳು ನನ್ನ ಜನರ ಬದುಕನ್ನು ಸರ್ವನಾಶ ಮಾಡಿವೆ. ಇಂದಿಗೂ ನನ್ನ ಕೆರೆಯ ಹೆಂಗಸರು ಭಿಕ್ಷೆ ಬೇಡಿ ದೇಹವನ್ನು ಮಾರಿಕೊಂಡು ಸೂಳೆಗಾರಿಕೆ ಮಾಡುತ್ತಾರೆ. ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಕೇವಲ ನನ್ನೂರಿನ ಕಥೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ ಅನೇಕ ಜಿಲ್ಲೆಗಳು, ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ, ಮಹಾರಾಷ್ಟ್ರ, ಒರಿಸ್ಸಾ, ಈ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಗಳ ಒಂದು ಜೀವನದ ದಲಿತ ಮಹಿಳೆಯರ, ದಲಿತರ ದುಸ್ಥಿತಿಯೂ ಸಹ ಇದೇ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮುಂದೆ ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಿ.
The Hindu caste system has led to the untouchability and discrimination that we face, has led to this oppressive Devdasi system, and not just in Karnataka, also in Andhra Pradesh, in Maharashtra, in Odisha, thousands of women are forced into this kind of a life.
ಇತ್ತೀಚಿನ ದಿನಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಓದಿದಂತಹ ಯುವಕರು ಧಾರ್ಮಿಕತೆ ಹಾಗೂ ದೇವದಾಸಿಯರಲ್ಲಿ ಜಾಗೃತಿ ಉಂಟು ಮಾಡುತ್ತಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಇತ್ತೀಚಿನ ದಿನಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಓದಿದ ಯುವಕರು ಧಾರ್ಮಿಕತೆ ಹಾಗೂ ದೇವದಾಸಿಯರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಜಾಗೃತಿಯನ್ನು ಉಂಟು ಮಾಡುತ್ತಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಅರಿವನ್ನು ಮೂಡಿಸ್ತಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಆದರೆ ಆ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಓದ್ತಿರೋದು 10ನೇ ತರಗತಿಯನ್ನು ಯಾರೂ ದಾಟೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಜೀವನ, ಬದುಕು ಮುಖ್ಯ ಆಗಿರ್ತದೆ ಅಂತ.
These days we have been trying to bring about greater awareness and also fight against this particular system, and explain to about the need for educating people from our community. However, most of them don't manage to cross the 10th standard.
ಈ ಒಂದು ವಿಷಯಗಳನ್ನು ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಾನು ಈ ಪುಸ್ತಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೆದಾಗ, ನನ್ನ ಹಾಸ್ಟೆಲಲ್ಲಿದ್ದ ಒಮ್ಮೆ SC ಹಾಸ್ಟೆಲಲ್ಲಿದ್ದಂಥ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಹಿಂದೂ ಪರ ಸಂಘಟನೆಗಾರರ ಒಂದು ಮೈಂಡ್ಗಳು ನನ್ನನ್ನ ಆ ತಾಯಿಗೆ ಹುಷಾರಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದು ಜಿಲ್ಮೆಯಿಂದ ಕಿಡ್ನಾಪ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗಿ ನನ್ನನ್ನು ಮರ್ಡರ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕಂತ, ಏನೋ ಹಿಂದೂ ಧರ್ಮಕ್ಕೆ ಜಾತಿ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಲಿಂಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಬರ್ತೀಯ, ದೇವದಾಸಿ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಹಿಂದೂ ಧರ್ಮದ ಲಿಂಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಬರ್ತೀಯ ಅಂತಂದು ಈಗ ಬೆರಳುಗಳನ್ನ ಕಟ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದ್ರು. ಅವರಿಂದ ಹೇಗೋ ಎಸ್ಕೇಪ್ ಆಗಿ, ಅವ್ರು ಡ್ರಿಂಕ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಿಂದ ನಾನು ಎಸ್ಕೇಪ್ ಆಗಿ ನನ್ನ ಜೀವವನ್ನ ಉಳಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡೆ.
I have written about all my experiences in this book called Odala Kichu, where different poems are. It's a collection of my poems, and after reading this, some of the Hindutva elements have one day kidnapped me from my hostel and then beaten me up badly. They threatened that if I write against Hinduism, why link Devdasi system and the untouchability to Hindu system, you should stop writing, and was brutally beaten up. But since they were drunk, I managed to escape from them, and I am standing before you.
ಕೊನೆಯದಾಗಿ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಈ ಡೆಲ್ಲಿಯಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತಹ ನೀವೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಸಹ ನರೇಂದ್ರ ಮೋದಿ ಏನು ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್ ಲಂಡನ್ ನಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತ ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್ ನಿವಾಸವನ್ನು ಅಭಿವೃದ್ಧಿಪಡಿಸಿದ್ರು, ಚೆನ್ನೈನಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತ ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್ ಸಮಾಧಿಯನ್ನು ಅಭಿವೃದ್ಧಿಪಡಿಸಿದ್ರು ಅಂತ ಬ್ರಾಂಡ್ ಆಗಿ ನಿಮಗೆ ತೋರಿಸ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಬಟ್ ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್ ಕನಸು ಏನಾಗಿತ್ತು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ದಲಿತರು ಈ ದೇಶದ ಕಟ್ಟಕಡೆಯ ಶೋಷಿತರು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಏನು ಕಾನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಸ್ಥಾಪನೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು, ಆ ಕಾನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನ್ ವಿರುದ್ಧವಾಗಿ ನರೇಂದ್ರ ಮೋದಿ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಿಜವಾದಂತಹ ನ್ಯಾಯ, ನಿಜವಾದಂತಹ ಸೌಲಭ್ಯಗಳು ಈ ದಲಿತರಿಗೆ ಯಾವ ವರ್ಷಕ್ಕೆ ಸಿಗ್ತಾವೋ ಇಲ್ಲೋ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ದಯಮಾಡಿ ಮೋದಿ ಮತ್ತು ಅವರ ಕ್ಯಾಬಿನೆಟ್ಸ್ ಹಾಗೂ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಸರ್ಕಾರ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಅದರ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ನ ಎಲ್ಲ ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟು ಈ ತರ ದಲಿತರ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆಗಳನ್ನ ಈಡೇರಿಸಲಿ, ನಂತರ ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್ನ ಬ್ರಾಂಡ್ ಆಗಿ ಮಾಡಲಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ನನಗೆ ಮಾತನಾಡಲು ಅವಕಾಶ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೇವೆ.
Friends, while this kind of oppression is going on, Modi is buying the room stayed by Ambedkar in UK, and also some room in a building that Ambedkar stayed in Chennai, and they are trying to build a brand. All those who are today trying to use Ambedkar, first people who are sitting here, you all should unite to ensure that the oppression that we face is first ended, then let them make brands of Ambedkar. They have no right to use the name of Ambedkar. Thank you.
Thank you, Prasad. Thank you for that wonderful conversation. We have a piece of sordid reality that we are living every day in front of us. We have with us Bama, who does not need much of an introduction to those who read literature, particularly Dalit literature, because she was one of the pioneers of Tamil Dalit writing, particularly fiction. And many of you must have read, at least in English translation, her works like Telugu and Sangati. I request Bama to make a presentation.
Good afternoon. After listening to Prasad's story, actually with a very heavy heart I am standing here, because this story we started in 90s when we celebrated Ambedkar's birthday century in those times. In Tamil Nadu especially, we started narrating our own story. But now listening to him, it is a never-ending story. And Ambedkar in his own life, he spoke about the caste discriminations that he had faced. And when we look back to the history, it is a continuous story. So, where are we and how long we have to speak like this, I don't know. I really don't know. So when I say, I began my talk like this. Caste and untouchability are not relics of distant past, and that the feudal and caste-based Indian mindset has not changed. Though we live in a globalized context of modernity and social equality, 100% true. Also, our brother Rohit's death. So, what has changed, I don't know. People say it is changed, but I don't know what is changed. We realize this enormity and monstrosity of the problem when we realize that every 6th person in India is a Dalit. So you can imagine the intensity of the problem, the urgency of the problem to be dealt with. Caste status is decided by birth and is therefore irreversible. To choose and change religion is a fundamental right in our country. There is, however, no right to change and choose a caste other than the one in which one is born. Even if one attains higher level of education, achieves a higher economic status, or gets elected to higher political office, or becomes a public servant, one remains vulnerable to caste discrimination. You can give 101 examples for that, with different people, with different personalities, different celebrities. Even in my own life I can speak. So there is, we say once you get educated and come up in life, you come up in life economically, okay, you can get name and fame, you can go high up in the society, but the stigma still is attached to you. Even in my own life, even now, after becoming a famous writer and all those things, in my neighborhood, they look at me as an untouchable woman. And in my school, the parents, the upper caste children parents, they used to greet me and they had good relationship with me. But once they come to know that I am a Dalit woman, they stopped wishing me. And even if I call them to talk about their children, they won't come. They think that it is below their dignity to go and meet me. After all, she is a Dalit woman, why should we go and meet me? They don't even want to hear about the children through my mom. So that kind of situation. Even a postman, he used to give letters to me and talk to me very nicely. Once he come somehow or other to the paper, he came to know. Then that time onwards, he just threw the letter into my house and it goes away. So, in a very, very minor thing, small thing, it starts from there and it goes out to very serious problems. as Sachchidananda says and he says, we live in an atmosphere of constant and everyday violence. These are all violent activities. Our lives are most unprotected and insecure, and our struggle for survival is as complex as our existence. And a lot of things you can say. I'm not going to point out what other things are happening in our country. But one little thing which really pricks me so hard is, it may appear a slight thing, but I read in the paper in the state of Bihar, a dalit child was standing near a street tap to collect water, and upper caste man passed by, and this child's shadow fell on him. For that, this child was penalized. I can't even imagine that. That is not mistake of the child. He passed by, the child's shadow fell on him, so she was penalized. It happened now, not years back. So when we start to revolt against the system of oppression, then we are labeled as violent people. And we are said that we are disturbing the peace and harmony of the so-called society. And this religion, any religion, Hinduism or Christianity or Muslim or whatever religion may be, justifies the inferior status of greater inequality, which is what caste is all about. It aggravates the already harsh life situation of dalits by reinforcing and legitimizing the dominant values, attitudes, ideology and practices. Ignorance among Dalits is always exploited at all times, and religion is used to perpetuate this ignorance. Religion is used to mask the oppressive reality and create a false and uncritical consciousness and passivity in Dalits. Their simplicity, their piety, unworldliness, attitudes of caring and sharing, and their compassionate nature are exploited in the name of God by religion. Religion exercises its power over Dalits not only by getting them to do what they do not want to do, but also exercises power over them by influencing, shaping and determining their desires and wants. So that is the major power. The supreme exercise of power over others is to make them want the desires you want them to have, which means securing their complaints by controlling their thoughts and desires. This authority of religion is accepted blindly, simply because it is supposed to be sanctioned by divine will, with the promise of eternal reward for the obedient and threat of eternal punishment for the disobedient. At least in the Catholic, in Christianity, I can say, whatever the higher authority, the church says, you have to obey. If you question them, then you are excluded. And you are justified by saying, after all, Jesus suffered, so you are sharing his suffering. And as long as you share that, you will be given a place in heaven. But what about the life here on earth? They don't talk about that. And in the name of religion, the name of God, they say you need to be merciful, loving, forgiving. So all kinds of things they say. But Jesus is a revolutionary person. He stood against the unjust system of his time. But they don't really focus on that. They don't want people to know that and to raise and speak for their rights. This is what religion does. And Hinduism, there is no need to talk about that, as he has spoken a lot about Hinduism. And in the name of religion, we are asked what to eat, how to dress, where to go. All these things are decided by God in religion. So where is our freedom? Basically, God has created us to be free person, to live freely with fraternal love and equality and freedom. That's what we are created for. But in the name of God, we are not liberated, we are made slaves. In the name of God, our freedom is taken away and we are just made as machines, having faith in God and the authorities in our religions. The blending of religious and social myths that reflect and justify the caste culture keeps Dalits passive, dependent and inferior to non-Dalits, and prevents them from rebelling against this. They are brainwashed by the caste culture which have masked Dalits' true identity as persons. They are made slaves and forced to live a life of silence, passivity and dependence without being able to realize their true capacities to think and stand up for themselves. Their real selves as human persons are eclipsed by layers of caste culture and concepts which are sustained through traditional values, various customs and practices, art and literature, and through a process of internalization through the myths, doctrines and rituals of religions. The dominant caste perceives Dalit culture as inferior, dirty, immoral, impure, cunning, good for nothing, dishonest, collective, quarrelsome, ungrateful and ugly, while the dominant culture perceives itself to be pure, superior, individualistic, authoritarian and acceptable. The repressive hierarchical caste system dehumanizes the Dalits and implants slavery deep down in their unconscious minds. Through the menial occupations they are forced to engage in as a symbolic expression of their inferior status, and through verbal abuse and often through physical violence, they have been told again and again of their degradation. Now Prasad was mentioning all these menial jobs. Of late, when we had this flood in Chennai, many people came for rescue and relief work. And it was flashed in all the channels of it. But to clean the city, and tons of rubbish and plastic things, everything was hoarded on, and dead animals and shit and whatnot. All these rubbish were heaped there. But to remove that, nobody came except the scavengers from different districts of Tamil Nadu. They have brought all of them from all these districts and made them to clean the city. Why it is so? When they are doing this relief and rescue work, the volunteers, they can equip themselves and they would have cleaned those things and to make the city better. But all the workers, Dalit workers from different parts of Tamil Nadu were brought in lorries and they were forced to do that. Nobody was willing to do that. If other person, even if you give lakhs and crores of rupees, nobody would have come to do that work. Why we alone? They brought, one of the well-known actors brought some gloves and boots and all those things and presented, and he showed his face on the TV. Why? They can wear those things and they can clean it, no? So this is again telling that we are only suitable to do this kind of work. So Dalits gradually come to believe that we are degraded persons and reach a stage where we ourselves voluntarily hold ourselves apart and submit to the dominant caste cultural hegemony and thus become the ideal Harijans of Gandhian utopia. But this is not true. Dalit culture is. We, with our deep sense of the impermanence of life in this world, accept birth and death as the inevitable realities of life. We cherish the deeply humane values of life. You can see even today, when there is a baby born in a family, everybody is happy and sings song. When there is a death in a family, everybody sings songs and dances. Means birth and death we welcome equally. It is inevitable, that is our philosophy. And if there is a death in a family, the whole village remain supporting them, doing all kinds of things and trying to show and comfort them that we are all with you. So that kind of togetherness, that is the real Dalit culture, sense of belonging to one another. So that kind of values we have, that this again it is Buddhism, the impermanence of life. So we realize that we have nothing to lose because we have nothing shared, saved. So life for us is very simple. Today, this moment, this activation. So that is Dalit culture. Our culture glorifies the collective communal life, nurturing and celebrating our corporate identity. This corporate identity extends not only to the realm of human, but it can extend in a very natural manner to animals and plants and birds, everything. I have recorded these things in my short stories. Loving animals. You can see even when I was traveling here only, on the platform, many people were sitting and taking chaya, and a small boy shivering, but there was a dog and kissing one another with the mouth, the boy and the dog. I was reminded of my own village because this kind of relationship, this kind of playing and having animals and cats and even cattle and bulls, everything, they love like human persons. So that is, so their relationship is not only within the limits of human, it extends to the sky, to the land, to the plants, to the trees, to the animals, everywhere. That is a kind of cosmic relationship. So they are one with the nature, and because they are the toiling people in the soil, though they don't own the land, but they love the land, they love the soil, they love everything. While taking pride in and celebrating this culture, we are engaged in unmasking the inhumanity and everyday violence embedded in the caste social order, with a view to destroy it and to build an alternate humanistic culture. This starts with protest and revolt. In my writings, I have tried to delve deep into the Dalit philosophy and psyche as it struggled to liberate itself from victimhood and become militant in order to assert its humanity and to celebrate the deeply humane, vibrant and down-to-earth Dalit culture. I show how Dalit men and women react against and resist the inhumanity of caste oppression. I can tell you a lot of stories from my own short stories. Even in Karku, I have written, and in my short stories also, maybe one or two I can mention here. In my story, there is a short story, Annaji, you might have read. I mean, it is available in English also. A Dalit boy, well dressed, and he went to work in the landlord's field, and he went a little late. And the landlord, when he saw his beautifully ironed white dress shirt, he was annoyed. So he asked him, are you coming to work in the field? What is the time now? Do you know the time? You are coming late, he asked him. And this boy answered him in a very satirical way. Annachi. Annachi means big brother. Brother, I have no watch, brother. Only you have the watch, brother. So you can tell me the time, brother. Next time, I will buy a watch, brother. And then I can come on correct time, brother. And he all the time insists that on that word, brother. So this landlord was annoyed, was so angry. For what? Because he called him as brother. So he went and complained this village headman, telling that this boy called him as brother. So these people, at night they called for a panchayat and they were questioning him. Why did you call a landlord, upper caste man as brother? In Tamil we say Annachi. Annachi means elder brother. For this boy, he answered back in a very satirical way. I called him Annachi, big brother, because he is elder to me. If he is younger to me, I would have called him as Thambi, as younger brother. So they were so furious. We are questioning you for calling him as Annachi and you are making fun of the people here. How dare you call him Annachi? Then he was so angry and then he said, see you people, last week when I called a scavenger as Annachi, you said, oh, you are going and calling him with a relationship with Annachi. And now you are questioning me for calling that landlord as Annachi. What are you trying to tell me? Whether a scavenger or a landowner, whoever it is. Man is a man. He says, there is a proverb in Tamil, Kaluda vitala mun vitta vera, pin vitta vera. Means, when a donkey shits, whether it shits first or last, shit is shit. So, man is man. Why this discrimination among man? So, whatever job he does, whatever caste he belongs to, whatever God he worships, whether he is educated or not educated, whether man or woman, whether beautiful or ugly, dark or white, whatever may be, man is man. So why this difference? So with that sharp proverb, he just walked off. He didn't stay there. So this kind of recording of people in their experiences, we try to. This writing itself is a political act, a kind of weapon we use to establish equality and fraternity. Again, there is another small story, Kisumbukaran, where a dalit man worked the whole day in the farm of a landlord, and evening he went to his home to collect his day's wage. But that landlord again asked him, he was so tired, hungry, and only after getting that wage fully he has to go and give to his wife to cook. But this landlord again and again telling him to do different jobs in his house. Go and water the cattle, go to the shop and buy this, and go here and go there. So he patiently did 2-3 jobs. Then finally he was upset and angry. Then he the one and okay, you have finished all this. Now what else can we do? He asked. Then this dalit man said, okay, now you bring your wife, we will bed her ultimately. What else he will say? So there is a limit for everything. So people who are oppressing us can't oppress on and on for years and years. When this boiling steam once throws away the lid, as he says, no fire in the body. So it will come up one day. So that's what Ambedkar said, no? Dynamite within you. It will burst out one day. So there is a limit for everything, and only through protest and revolt we can get our freedom and liberation. That we are very sure about that. It was an experience of sheer delight for me to describe people who affirmed and celebrated their right to be human like everybody else, belittling the caste laws and traditions fearlessly and with gay abandon. What I am suggesting and advocating is a path of militant solidarity. A militancy which has a humanistic goal. This world, of course, needs a passage from a Harijan victimhood to Dalit militancy which has potential for reimagining and reinventing a more liberative human existence. This Dalit militancy arises from the fertile ground of a vibrant Dalit culture. However, for the Dalit protest and militancy to have the staying power and humanistic direction, it should be informed by rationality and ethical values of equality and human solidarity. By rationality, I mean the rational behavior, opinion, decisions, policies, etc., based on reasons and not on emotions and religious beliefs. Reasoning can be concerned with the right way of viewing and treating other people, other cultures, other claims, and with examining different grounds for respect and tolerance. This is the great lesson that Dr. Ambedkar has bequeathed to us. He didn't think that Dalit liberation can be brought about by mere emotional outburst or hero worship. I believe he embraced Buddhism, which is a religion preeminently of rationality and ethical values, to supplant a culture of inequality and irrationality with a culture of rationality and equality. From submissive Harijan victims, we need to become articulate, argumentative Dalit militants as we live in a time of increasing intolerance and corporate globalization. Let me conclude with my favorite quotation of Ambedkar. My final words of advice to you are educate, agitate, and organize. Have faith in yourself. With justice on our side, I do not see how we can lose our battle. The battle to me is a matter of joy. The battle is in the fullest sense spiritual. There is nothing material or social in it. For ours is a battle not for wealth, for power. It is a battle for freedom. It is the battle of reclamation of human personality. Thank you.
Thank you, Bama, for a very cogent and very well-argued presentation of the issue. Now we have Gopal Guru, who is well known as a major theoretician of Dalit values and Dalit existence, and caste itself as a structure, as something that structures our society. I request Gopal Guru to present his thoughts on what has been said and what will be said.
My first point is about the conditions of receptivity. So, I'm not disciplining you, you can go out. Yeah, I'm not disciplining. Please feel free to go out because this is a different occasion altogether. When we are actually talking about Rohit's death, and Shyam has failed to understand as to why there is a movement in this hall. People are going out, people are coming in, why there is a movement? And this is the question one has to ask. What are the conditions of receptivity of narratives of Prasad and Bama and Rohit? To what extent do we participate in the suffering? To what extent, in what way can we make somebody's personal suffering as the collective suffering? And therefore I thank the organizers. Ambedkar University Shak has known for his commitment to suffering and collectivity. I have been saying that. So thanks to Ambedkar University, where you find students sitting in a very adverse, hostile, cold, not very much cold, but still there's some degree of cold. The point is, should we really produce a psychological condition to get people participate in the narratives on the way? or Huchangi Prasad, or people we have written on dalit experiences. Or should we discipline people morally, as Gandhi used to do? Ranjit was discipline and mobilize. Should we really close down the university to pay homage to Roy? Is it a happy situation? Why can't your response as a spontaneous moral response become available? And why you have to really engineer some kind of or manufacture a response on the very authentic date of Roy? This is the question I am asking myself. So, conditions of receptivity is very important to really think together, feel together, and move together. Are we doing it? This present company is an exception. It is really an exception. Some people have come from outside to participate in this and think together. So I thank the organizers and university for creating an opportunity to at least collectively reflect on what a reflective letter that Rohit wrote. It's deeply philosophically reflective letter. And I think somebody can really write about 5 theses on this. Just my birth is a fatal accident. If my birth is a fatal accident, what is your birth? Is the question that one has to ask in caste term. Why somebody says my birth is a fatal accident? He is raising fundamental question about his own metaphysics of liberation and emancipation. And just Babura Babu, one of the early doyens of Dalit literature, said, I have taken the birth, and that was my mistake to take birth in a particular caste, but I will rectify it. I will rectify the mistake for having taken birth in this particular caste. So, you require to really think. Why I am asking this question to myself and to students? Let us ask this question: what is caste? There are 2 points out because we have spoken so much on different aspects, very complex aspects of Dalit life. The point is, why? I mean, life becomes so. Life is a very vague word. Life is a very vague word. You just can't make any sense out of it unless you really put some content in it. Is it not? Life, when it is it is aided with some lived experience of Dalit, it actually offers roots to, as they say, truth. Bama's Karaku first autobiography. You can really offer passage to somebody's truth when life is aided with some content in it, some truth in it. The lived experience is the content that opens up access to truth, and literature plays a very important role in offering this access to truth. And therefore, I would really not quote Plato and Aristotle or some psychological Freud or somebody in my class. That will be deeply misleading. I will really read Bama's autobiography in my class and try to get the result of response and get people to think with me, get them into the context. I have to struggle hard to see, please really join courses that are about caste. But students really create anxiety in me. If I go with the class, if I go to the class with this content of caste, how will they receive me? Will they really participate thinking with me? That is my anxiety. This is the problem in our classroom situation. Classroom situation is already divided with very, very painful asymmetries of gender, disability, everything. You don't want to really think with them. You actually want to play. I mean, you don't want to really discuss language which has a very hard material content. For example, disability or caste or gender. Now it is minorities. You want to have a vocabulary which is free from this content. Now you have to find out in your classroom what is that vocabulary which is free of content, which is just empty. We have got a lot of empty vocabulary. There are a lot of teachers who really throw empty vocabulary at your faces. And I don't want to mention that. And I am prepared to join issues. Please talk to people on these concrete contents of your reality in the classroom. And thereby really bridge the gap of asymmetries in the classroom. Now, if I am really teaching an urbanization course, how do I really bring caste? I am really talking about metropolitan situation, cosmopolitanism. When I am talking about cosmopolitanism, I'm not talking about ruler and country. I am making Ambedkar a planetary situation. He is a planetary thinker now. He doesn't belong to ruler, he doesn't belong to village, he doesn't belong to country, he doesn't belong to city. He is just planetary. Now, if this is the situation, let me really quote how caste operates. In one of the important autobiographies by Kishan Santoshi, a person who became the labor commissioner from a very Valmiki caste, from a scavenger's caste. And his autobiography is that my caste traveled faster than my transfer papers. Now you have, of course, digital. Yet caste travels faster. This is how the situation is today. If I am really taking a course on urbanization, should I not ask this question? How vague, how deceptive your understanding of metropolis and urban studies is? This question I need to ask. Then I should ask this question, that why I don't need to tell my caste. It is already known. People, I am called by people of unknown variety. And I ask them, how do you know my caste? It is there. And you don't have to really, and I have no control on my caste. It is available to people to really make meaning out of it. So caste has become so subtle. So this is one point. The other point is about Rohit. Rohit, let me make this point. I'm just provoking. Is there a point? Is there some time of discussion? I'll just finish quickly. Now, Rohit's letter is not a caste letter. A letter somebody from some caste has written to really express caste-related agony or trauma. It's not that. It's something deeply different. That he is writing to tell us that a Dalit person is not born in mediocrity. He is born with very, very vibrant ideas. He now, because he is interested in the realm of ideas. He has ambitions for ideas. He has ambitions for abstraction and universality. He wants to outgrow his identity and become the part of idea. He wants to become an idea. Do you allow him to undergo the transition from identity to ideas? So rising intellectual imagination intensifies casteism against the Dalit. And therefore, I think, in a way, if he had survived, he would have really written something. He was a science student, but he would have written wonderful track on philosophy. Is it not? So you have this, and therefore I think what is the casteism of the upper caste needs to be understood in terms of the failure to make gains in modernity. They were making gains in tradition, not in modernity. And which later sufficiently underlines that. So we, in a way, are actually wanting Dalit. The later says that we really have to look at Dalit as people who are actually struggling to acquire that generic identity through which they can appear in different spheres of life with different identities. They are not Dalit intellectuals, they are not Dalit presidents, they are not Dalit teachers, they are different. Would you allow that to happen? And that is your moral capacity and intellectual stamina to offer recognition. And therefore, I think rising intellectual imagination is the root cause. And I know many of them in Hyderabad University are so brilliant, Dalit students. And therefore, I would say, very poetically, I'm not a poet, but whatever, and this philosophy again, universe is in a sand of the grain of sand. Universe is in the grain of sand, and the grain of sand is in the universe. You might say it is Hegelian, but it's with this, basically. Rohit wants you to move, to do that. Dalit actually dissolves into this transition. Dissolves into this tradition. Every other, just as women's question dissolves into tradition. Dalit question also dissolves into this. And therefore, I think the struggle is, as Bahura I'm repeating again, to really work with those who do not say, my birth is a fatal accident. I need to change it. And Ambedkar, of course, said that we need to change this. And that lines Bama recited, agitate, unite, and organize. I mean, the sequence is not correct, but anyway, that's it. Okay? Even in Ambedkar, the sequence has to be different. I don't know where to really discuss it. I must thank you for this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gopal Guru, for that pithy and philosophical conclusion to this wonderful discussion. We have some time. We are running a bit behind schedule, but still it's not proper that we leave without giving all of you an opportunity to raise any question that you would like to raise to any of these panelists. At the moment, we can take 5 questions. Not that 5 is the sacred number, but it means not many questions. Yeah, please.
Of the question, I just want Prasad to recite one point from the book. Can we take all the questions and then we'll
We have a reading of that we will be concluding the whole session with a poem by him. Anyway, we are already planning. But this is the time for questions.
Sir, interesting presentation. I'm also Dalit. My question is to Professor Gopal Guru. You question this very fundamental question you asked in the initial when people were moving. Why there is movement and this all, and how to make people receptive. And you question their receptivity and sensitivity, and that is very moral question. So I want to ask the language and the activism of the Ambedkarite or Dalit politics that they are very radical language. They use very radical language, but they act very, peacefully, like non-violent protest. So I want to highlight the dichotomy of Dalit politics, that using radical language but not acting radically. So in this context, you are not in the radical language use always criticize Gandhian method. Gandhi, particularly Gandhi and Gandhiism. And on the other front, when you are not acting radically, you are also not aligning with the Maoist or using violence. So how this method, the dichotomy going in the direction to the success or liberation of the Dalit or annihilation of caste. And in the dialogue, see, if you use the dialogue, people are not receptive. And if you use the violence, so you are not doing that. Thank you.
Gopal, would you like to respond?
No, let's keep the support question.
Yeah.
I'll remember.
And it's not a question, it's just a very brief comment that, what my thinking is that increased violence against any movement is a sign that the time, the idea has come. Clearly it shows that Dalit movements and all movements against all discrimination is on the right path, and that's, I think, so it is a very sad thing of what happened, and increasingly there is violence, but it also shows that this is on the right track, because violence is a sign of the fear of those who would not like organizations I'm just thinking that it's sad, but it may not be the dark hour of an hour of cynicism, rather than thinking that this is on the right track, and that it is that whoever is against the RSS, organized right, the far right, whoever it is, they are afraid, and that's exactly why all kinds of systemic or institutional violence is increasing. So I think that is one, maybe a small ray of hope we might carry from such discussions and incidences that have happened.
I have a very small question which actually carries over from some other seminar which was on the same issue. I forget the name of the writer, but someone told us that in villages, Dalit children are given very demeaning names like, stone and buffalo and things like that. So my question is that I can understand the upper caste doing that to them, but why would people continue to do that to their own children? It's just nothing.
Good evening. Okay, when we're looking at the entire process of othering, especially in today's time, when we look at it within an Indian subcontinent and a context within here, there's this increased violence towards constructing the other. When we look at it at an Asian level, when we look at it at a European, Asian and a global level, again you see there's this whole force moving towards this construct of the othering. And it is a global phenomenon which works out in its dynamics in a particular way, and it's working out its dynamics in a very different way within India. Do you see a relationship or correlation happening between the two in this process of othering, whether it's a global Dalitification that is happening or within an Indian context where, it's an othering process? One. Second question is, in terms of language is also colored. The minute we talk about when we theorize, we are constructing within a particular language. But then when we talk about experiences and we work from experiences, it is from that experience that language is born. So how do you look at between language theory vis-a-vis experience?
in all the three presentations, nature came in different ways. Nature was something that was talked about. And even in Lohit's letter, nature comes. When he talks about his relationship with nature and how humans have actually now possibly are not in a relationship with nature. I'm just trying to think whether this is something that any of you would want to reflect upon a little more, the importance of nature or the presence of nature in the kind of politics that is being visualized.
Good evening to all of you, and thank you very much for your fascinating presentations of lectures. My name is Arjun Kapoor, and I'm from the Masters in Psychology program. My question is, given that we are in a university space, and most university spaces in India, or the Indian university system, is Brahmanical, and so is the process of knowledge production, which is dominated by Savarnas led by the Brahmins. My question is that even, and this is something which I've experienced even in this university, that often in classes when we talk about philosophy, theories of knowledge, there is a pitting against the West, or against colonial sort of forms of knowledge production, or the hegemony of Western knowledge systems on the so-called Eastern, in the so-called Eastern part of this world. My question is, should not the same pitting against apply within our context? Say, in terms of Brahmanical epistemology versus those that come from the oppressed classes. And if there has to be that rupture, on what parameters do we then create that rupture between knowledge which is produced from Brahmanical spaces as opposed to those which are produced from oppressed classes? Thank you.
I would like to comment on a few questions here. This naming of dalit children, somebody asked here. Yeah. See, formerly the names were given by landlords to identify dalits. So by the names you will know who are the dalits. And normally it was some kind of ugly names like rubbish and soil and some animals or things like that, so that they can be easily identified. These are not only names, but even the whole lifestyle of Dalits were determined by the land of the upper caste. What dress and what ornaments, what vessels to use, what animals to grow, a lot of things. So it is like that. But now it is not followed. Now Dalits have their own freedom to choose and name their children. So either God's name of their own religion or any fashionable name, or for example Tamil names like that, there is no problem now. So it was formerly it was done like that. And about nature, I would like to point out something. See, nature and knowledge. Dalits are born and brought up amidst this five Buddhas, this the five things, sky, water, fire, Panchama Buddha. So they are closely linked with those five. So they every day they touch this boom, soil to work, and they lived almost most of the Dalits live in open. Though they have a small hut, even today. They don't close, some of their houses don't have even doors. There is a small hut, but they sleep on the street in villages. So almost one with the air and the sky. to just sleep on the street, look at the sky, the stars and the moon, that really lightens their days of hardship and burdens. So it is that kind of life they have, even today in villages. And water. And but this morning we were talking Gita and water, though they live in villages and they work for everybody, they produce food for everybody, but for them to get drinking water, they have to walk kilometers and kilometers and collect water for them. So basically it is an ironical thing. They produce everything, but they don't have it. They work hard for the rest of the humanity, whereas they starve, they have scarcity of water, they don't have enough nutritious food. So this is the paradoxical life of Dalits. So again with fire. So this is a kind of life. This is the way of life we have at least in villages. In cities now it is scattered because of this globalization. This globalization, what it had done, the harm that it has created to Dalits is it was the name of privatization and free economy, all those things. Fertile lands are changed into real estate business and building houses or horticultural crops. So a lot of changes have come, and this basic knowledge about agriculture, soil, climate and growing crops and animals, only Dalits have. That traditional knowledge is not respected and acknowledged. They are skilled laborers and they know when rain will come, when wind will come, when what crop to be sown in what seeds, what time, and how long it takes to sprout out and come. So all this practical wisdom they know, but nobody respects that. So now what happened? They are landless and they have no work also now, so they are scattered to different cities, into urban areas where they are again, they dwell in slums and near the outskirts of cities without proper shelter, proper food, nothing. This is the condition of Dalits now. So this is forgotten. Their oneness with nature, even their art forms, performing art forms, folk tales, folk songs, stories. Lot of things that they have, but as the society excludes Dalits and says that they are no human persons like that, whatever they have, they don't consider as precious things. This is what we are losing. So now we are talking about ecology and this and that and warming up of global warming and a lot of things abroad, in here also we are talking, and definitely there is changes, change in the climate changes we face and warming up, it is there, but why? This is the condition. So if we really love this earth, then we have to go back to the life of these farmers, the agricultural laborers who are invariably Dalits. And again, this knowledge about this the education and knowledge and universities, schools, colleges, I have one thing to say. Now, whether in schools or colleges or universities, they don't produce real human beings with emotions and heart. They are producing machines. Machines to fit into different companies and to earn money either in India or abroad. So there is no human touch in the knowledge or in whatever it is given to the younger generations. So actually education is supposed to be an agent for social change. But what happens? This caste discrimination is very, very aggressively practiced in universities and colleges and schools, rather than in villages. In village, if now today's condition, if anybody calls me by name, by my caste name, or if anybody degrades me, I will give it back. But here, in the universities and colleges and schools, it is in a very subtle, satirical way it is practiced. Wherever I go, I have gone to different universities and I have lectured them. One invariable question will be there about reservation. Everywhere. So much so, lately in one of the colleges, very famous college in Chennai, I said, please stop that question. I was fed up. Because people think Dalits are Budhus, they don't have anything in their head, they are not intelligent people. Only through reservation they are coming up in life. They don't have it. Even yesterday I was talking to someone and they were talking about Rohit, and he was indirectly telling me, but anyway, this PhD and this higher thing, they need to work hard and achieve through hard labor and research work. It takes merit, you know. So this is the mindset of people have. That Dalits are not capable of doing research, capable of having a doctorate degree. So that is, it is written there. Same thing in schools. Even in a primary school, teacher will say, oh, Dalit, you won't be able to do this. I will tell you a concrete example. One AEO, additional educational officer, somebody, he went and visited a classroom of 5th class, and he asked one of the boys to stand up and read Tamil, his mother tongue. He was not able to read properly. So he questioned the headmaster, why this boy is not able to read even the mother tongue, Tamil. At least English I can understand, but why he is not able to read? And the headmaster told him, he is an SC sir, he can't read. Then, if he has this in his mind, how will he teach that boy? Just excluding SC children. I know, I have personally seen this condition. Immediately, oh, SC, okay. Whether they learn it or not, and Tamil Nadu especially, they all promoted. So whether you read or write or, okay, pass, till the 10th standard. 10, government exam, fail, drop out. Go and do some menial job in your village. This is the condition. So from the beginning, Dalit children are rejected. Their intelligence, their brain, nothing is considered there. And the system of education we have is so rigid and so inhuman, and it doesn't allow children to show their creativity and originality. So it continues in the colleges, in high schools and colleges and universities also. Competition, getting good marks, so that you can get employment anywhere and earn 4 digit, 5 digit, 6 digit salary and then settle in life. That's it. Competition. So we don't have that sympathizing sensitivity to other person. I'm not talking only about caste, even gender. That's what happening in different places. So what is the role of education? If really education liberates us, Rohit would not have died. Like that, he says, 8 persons committed in the same university. Where are we then? How can we call us as educated people? I'm really fed up and I really hate this system of education. Just to produce machines, just to suit different corporate companies, without having that human touch, that humanness in us. What is the use of having this education then? Leave alone caste. So instead of liberating us, it is again enslaving us. That is the condition we have. So I'm happy that you are sitting and listening to us. And now we all feel that Rohit has gone. And I saw that a poster, we are more than 5, that was written there. Yes, more than 5 for what? It should not be this momentary sensational issue. it should remind us again that we are more than 5 to create an equal, chances to everybody and create a society where everybody matters as persons, not as commodities.
Okay, I have some questions, and Professor Shyam Menon, please invite me next time so that I answer this question. But to
Shruti, why are you standing up?
Because I want to ask a question.
chai pe charcha. See, these are three questions, and thanks Bama for this nature thing. It's very, very important. Even for me, it is important. By the way, I'm taking a course on philosophy of ecology, so it is helpful to me. Last question about this looking west for criticizing and defending our own knowledge system. I think you should ask this question to post-colonial theorists. They are the ones who are silent. They are silent about this local configuration of power, just to put it in a very subtle way. We always talk about colonial configuration of power. We actually rubbish empire for having conditioned our minds, and so this is ask this question to post-colonial theorists. But MSS Pandyan would have really answered this question beautifully, but he's not there now. And he has been really responding to this. But your question is right, that we haven't sufficiently reflected on this local. And there is now the women, very important point of view is coming from women. But I don't know whether they are really sufficiently criticizing Brahmanism. Dalits, of course, are in their own way, and D.R. Nagaraj is very important, and all these writers. And interestingly, all this critique has come from literature. Thanks to Dalit literature, which has really posed very serious question with different language, both conceptual and aesthetic. So we have this. So we should thank this. I would say, if you really want to develop a metaphysics of emancipation, refer back to Dalit literature very, very centrally. There you get some clue. So I think we should do it maybe in the next seminar in Ambedkar University. So the second point is otherizing. This is a big question. So what is so specific about otherizing in our context? So I think our otherizing is different, because we have this social reality called caste, which is not there in other parts. Now people are saying there are castes everywhere in South Asia and in Japan and everywhere. But I think we are talking about the intensity of caste. We are not talking only about the superficial reflections of caste. Ours is a very deep, much deeper, naturalized forms of caste. When caste is naturalized, it really actually begins to differentiate itself from the other ways of otherizing in race situation, in languages, in several other things. Language becomes so important, forms a weapon of otherizing others. And as Tamil language, and we in JNU have only two languages, dominant language, English, and I don't name the other, you can imagine. So this is the problem. You feel so much marginalized in their space, which is a democratic space, egalitarian space, university, universal, but we feel so marginalized. Our students feel marginalized in the event of some language trampling on you. So that's the unfortunate situation. You are so much intimidated, if not mesmerized. Some people are mesmerized. So this is the otherizing. This is a very different thing. About your questions, radical language and passive activism. I don't know how to. Let's put it this way. Let's give a JNU experience. When you are seeking admission in JNU, lot of care, a lot of discussion in philosophy. Carol Gilligan and others care. They are very caring. They will be standing everywhere. Please come. They will make your life comfortable, everything, fine. But the moment you are in, that language change on causal. What is causal? Deeply into dialectics, other things. The causal, C-A-U-S-A-L, not casual. So this is true. My question is, when in Hyderabad University, a lot of radical students are rallying around this issue, and I am in touch with them for the last 10 years almost. Same thing. Can you really accommodate the and as Bama has been insisting all the time, the element of emotions, element of care into your causal? They are two separate things. Therefore, I think the distinction, the joint between passive activism and radical language continues. And if you go into more ontological relationship between the passive and the active, you will find that there is a deeper problem. It actually relates to experience. A Dalit fellow, even in the radical circle, finds it so anxious. He or she gets lots of anxiety movement. Lots of anxiety movement. Whose responsibility is this to really remove that anxiety? Because your language, your scientific language, radical language, dialectical language of causal overwhelms the care. I think care has to be accommodated as an initial condition. As Bama says again, it should be an initial condition, not the essential condition. And I am also breaking dichotomy between the either or. Initially it has to be care. Don't really, otherwise everybody will start crying for Rohit. Everybody is crying anyway. But that is an initial condition to really keep you intact morally. If you are forcing people with this language, this disintegration, moral disintegration is imminent. Therefore, I think you have, and therefore literature becomes so important. To start with your discourse, so to say, in the classroom, start with Bama's poem or Bama's story or anybody's poem. There are several important writers. Why not? And I start my course on humiliation, sorry for this personal detail, with this movie. Movie Fandry in Marathi. And then people start taking interest in this course called humiliation and self-respect. So that is an initial. In poetry, painting, or Vivan Sundaram's beautiful art which is produced out of waste. So the aesthetic has to be the initial condition. I am not saying it has to be final, but it is. Thank you.
That poem of this, I don't know, say something. In order to help the oh, no, nothing. Yeah, that we have the resolution. So is it a pressing question you want to ask? Because we don't have much time. Is it a pressing question you have?
I can ask Bama later also. It was on the issue of
Maybe outside. Thank you.
We have prepared a very brief resolution in the context of the suicide, or what I would call the institutional murder of Rohit, and I request you to read it out.
Writers, scholars, students and teachers assembled at the Ambedkar University this day, 20th January 2016, for the panel discussion on caste, religion and lived culture during the release of the second issue of Gopal Guru, organized by the Ambedkar University, Delhi, and Indian Writers Forum, wish to record our anguish, shock and indignation at the sequence of events at the Hyderabad Central University that led to the suspension of 5 dalit students and the suicide of the research student Rohit Vemula. We condemn in no uncertain terms the role played by the ABVP who brought false charges against the activists of the Ambedkar Student Association
Appara Podile, the new Vice Chancellor of the university, who acted more like a Hindutva ideologue than like the impartial head of a university. The Sikandrabad MP and the Central Minister for Labour and Employment, Banda Rao Dattatreya, who recommended punitive action against the Dalit students even before he found out the truth of the allegations. The Department of Human Resources that intervened directly in the affairs of the university, thus endangering its autonomy, and all the regressive forces who have turned the university into a site of social exclusion that denies to the Dalit students their right to education and free expression. We are aggrieved that the students are being forced to bear this denial silently and attacked whenever they express their resentment at the inhuman treatment they receive from the upper castes and the authorities who support and shield them. We condemn the institutional harassment of Rohit Vemula and the other 4 students by the VC and administration of HCU. We demand that Banda Rao Dattatreya, Union Minister of Labour and Employment, be dismissed from the cabinet and Vice Chancellor Professor Appara Podile be dismissed forthwith from his post, and both, together with Sushil Kumar and his brother leaders of the ABVP and BJYM, be arrested for creating and abetting the circumstances that led to the suicide of Rohit Vemula. We also demand that the suspension of the students be revoked with immediate effect. We demand too a proper inquiry by an impartial high-power committee into similar atrocities and instances of discrimination getting more and more aggressive and rampant in the institutions of higher education across the country.
Thank you. Would you like to clap?
We would like to conclude as we did last time too with a poem, this time by none other than Huchangi Prasad. He will read the poem, a part of the poem in the original, and then it will be followed by an English version.
ನನ್ನ ಕವನದ ಹೆಸರು ದೇವರ ಮಕ್ಕಳು. ಶೋಷಣೆಯ ಕುಲುಮೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಸಾಲಾಗಿ ಸತ್ತವರು, ಪುರಾಣ ಇತಿಹಾಸದೊಳಗೆ ಪದವಾಗಿ ಬಿದ್ದವರು. ಶೋಷಣೆಯ ಕುಲುಮೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಸಾಲಾಗಿ ಸತ್ತವರು, ಪುರಾಣದ ಇತಿಹಾಸದೊಳಗೆ ಪದವಾಗಿ ಬಿದ್ದವರು. ಯಾರು ಹೇಳಿದರಂತೆ ನಾವು ದೇವರ ಮಕ್ಕಳೆಂದು.
The title is Children of God. Burnt in the furnace of oppression in rows, in mythology and history, we have been fallen words and sprinkled here and there, and someone apparently told we are the children of God.
ಕೆರೆ ಕಟ್ಟೆಗಳಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ಶಾಸನಗಳಾದವರು, ಮಂದಿರ ಮಸೀದಿ ಮಿನಾರ್ಗಳಿಗೆ ಬುನಾದಿಯಾದವರು. ಕೆರೆ ಕಟ್ಟೆಗಳಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ಶಾಸನಗಳಾದವರು, ಮಂದಿರ ಮಸೀದಿ ಮಿನಾರ್ಗಳಿಗೆ ಬುನಾದಿಯಾದವರು. ಯಾರು ಹೇಳಿದರಂತೆ ನಾವು ದೇವರ ಮಕ್ಕಳೆಂದು, ನಾವು ದೇವರ ಮಕ್ಕಳೆಂದು.
At lakes and squares we were sacrificed and became the stones that had history is written. We became the foundation of temples and mosques and minarets, and someone apparently said we are the children of God.
ಹಸಿವೆಂಬ ಅಗ್ನಿಗೆ ಮೈ ಮಾರಿಕೊಂಡವರು, ಯಜಮಾನರ ಬೆತ್ತಗಳಿಗೆ ಭುಜ ಬೆನ್ನ ಕೊಟ್ಟವರು. ಹಸಿವೆಂಬ ಅಗ್ನಿಗೆ ಮೈ ಮಾರಿಕೊಂಡವರು, ಯಜಮಾನರ ಬೆತ್ತಗಳಿಗೆ ಭುಜ ಬೆನ್ನ ಕೊಟ್ಟವರು. ಯಾರು ಹೇಳಿದರಂತೆ ನಾವು ದೇವರ ಮಕ್ಕಳೆಂದು.
In the fire of hunger we were forced to sell ourselves. We gave our backs to the landlord's cane, and someone apparently said we are the children of God.
ಹತ್ತಿಯನ್ನು ಬೆಳೆದು ಬೆತ್ತಲಾಗಿ ಸುತ್ತಿದವರು, ಹತ್ತಿಯನ್ನು ಬೆಳೆದು ಬೆತ್ತಲಾಗಿ ಸುತ್ತಿದವರು, ತುತ್ತು ಅನ್ನಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಸುತ್ತಾಡಿ ಸತ್ತವರು, ತುತ್ತು ಅನ್ನಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಸುತ್ತಾಡಿ ಸತ್ತವರು. ಯಾರು ಹೇಳಿದರಂತೆ ನಾವು ದೇವರ ಮಕ್ಕಳೆಂದು.
We grew cotton but roamed around naked, died roaming around for a morsel of grains, and someone apparently said we are the children of God.
ಸುತ್ತಿಗೆಯ ಹೊಡೆತಕ್ಕೆ ಕಾಲ್ ಕಳೆದುಕೊಂಡವರು, ಸಿಡಿಲಿಗೆ ಸಿಲುಕಿ ಕರಕಲಾಗಿ ಕರಗಿದವರು. ಸುತ್ತಿಗೆಯ ಹೊಡೆತಕ್ಕೆ ಕಾಲ್ ಕಳೆದುಕೊಂಡವರು, ಸಿಡಿಲಿಗೆ ಸಿಲುಕಿ ಕರಕಲಾಗಿ ಕರಗಿದವರು. ಯಾರೋ ಮಹಾತ್ಮರು ಹೇಳಿದರಂತೆ ನಾವು ದೇವರ ಮಕ್ಕಳೆಂದು, ನಾವು ದೇವರ ಮಕ್ಕಳೆಂದು.
We lost our legs to the hammer blows, we got charred in the lightning strikes, and some great man apparently said, we are the children of God. I use great man instead of Mahatma because he specifically mentioned that he is not hinting at Mahatma Gandhi.
Thank you. Let me thank the panelists. All those who made this little function so beautiful and so meaningful. All of you, teachers, students, people who have come from outside to listen, all those who belong to the fraternity of the Indian Writers Forum, and all those who belong to the other fraternity of Ambedkar University. Two fraternities which today have, I think, become one fraternity. Thank you so much.